Italiener. Grüß Gott, guten Abend und herzlich willkommen, liebe Motorsportfreunde in Österreich aus Amerika. Dritter Lauf zur Formel 1 Weltmeisterschaft hier in Long Beach, einem Vorort von Los Angeles. Der Start ist in ungefähr einer Viertelstunde und wir haben Gelegenheit, Ihnen noch ein paar Bilder aus Long Beach zu zeigen. Wo liegt Long Beach? Es ist einer der berühmten Vororte von Los Angeles, ähnlich wie Hollywood, wie Santa Monica oder wie das mondäne Beverly Hills, wenn auch bis jetzt oder bis es diesen Grand Prix gegeben hat, noch nicht so spektakulär und noch nicht so weltbekannt gewesen. Long Beach liegt im Süden von Los Angeles, ist eine sogenannte Pensionistenstadt, wie viele Amerikaner sagen. Es gibt sehr viele ältere Damen und Herren, die hierher nach Long Beach gezogen sind, ähnlich wie nach Florida. Man nennt Long Beach bei den Rennsportfreunden auch das Monte Carlo des Westens. Großer Preis also der amerikanischen Westküste. Es ist der 7. der Geschichte, bis jetzt 6 verschiedene Sieger und 3 von ihnen sind auch heute im Rennen noch dabei. Und für alle diejenigen unter Ihnen, die es vielleicht noch nicht wissen sollten, Niki Lauda, der heute den 116. Grand Prix seines Lebens fahren wird, den 3. Grand Prix seit seinem aufsehenerregenden Comeback, war im Training Zweiter, steht auf dem 2. Startplatz, geschlagen nur vom Italiener Andrea De Cesaris. Das ist mit 22 Jahren der jüngste Teilnehmer des heutigen Grand Prix, ausgerechnet also De Cesaris der jüngste und ausgerechnet De Cesaris der ehemalige Fahrer von McLaren, der voriges Jahr nach einer Serie von Unfällen bei McLaren keinen Vertrag mehr bekommen hat, als Niki Lauda ins Team gekommen ist. Das ist Andrea De Cesaris, erste Pole Position für den jungen Italiener, der gestern vor Freude über diese Trainingsbestzeit geweint hat. Es war in der allerletzten Trainingsrunde, dass Andrea De Cesaris diese Superrunde geglückt ist mit dem neuen Alfa Romeo 182, konstruiert von Gérard Ducarouche, dem ehemaligen Techniker des Ligier Talbot Teams, der voriges Jahr im Sommer von Ligier Talbot zu Alfa Romeo übergewechselt ist. Und dieser Andrea De Cesaris hat mit diesem Auto in der allerletzten Trainingsrunde Niki Lauda um genau 1200 besiegt. Das ist Niki Lauda, aufsehenerregendes Comeback hier in Long Beach. Im großen Bild Niki Lauda mit Ron Dennis, dem McLaren-Teamchef. Niki Lauda in voller Aktion rechts oben. Das sind selbstverständlich noch Aufnahmen aus dem Training. Niki Lauda hat in jeder der 5 Trainingssitzungen irgendwann einmal geführt, hat 4-mal erst in der allerletzten Runde die Bestzeit verloren. Das war am Freitag gegen Keke Rosberg, am Samstag gegen Prost, zunächst Vormittag gegen Andrea De Cesaris, dann in der letzten Runde des offiziellen Trainings und auch heute früh im inoffiziellen Aufwärmtraining, bei dem die Zeiten ja nicht mehr für die Startaufstellung gelten, hat Niki Lauda Bestzeit gehabt und wurde in der letzten Runde dann ausgerechnet von seinem Teamkollegen von John Watson noch geschlagen. René Arnoux mit dem Renault Turbo steht auf dem 3. Startplatz, schneller als sein Teamkollege Alain Prost, der in der Weltmeisterschaft nach Kyalami und Brasilien ja in Führung liegt. René Arnoux hatte ein sehr gutes Training, hat im Abschlusstraining etwa 10 Minuten lang sogar geführt. Dann ist ihm der 2. Gang gebrochen, die Zeit wurde ihm etwas knapp nach der Reparatur. Trotzdem noch der 3. Platz für René Arnoux. Allerdings die Renault Turbos sind hier in Long Beach noch niemals in die Weltmeisterschaftspunkteränge gekommen. Es ist eine Anti-Turbo-Strecke, wenn man so sagen darf. Und ich werde es Ihnen später ja noch vorstellen, die Strecke mit 140 km/h Schnitt. Das ist Alain Prost, der Sieger von Kyalami, der in der Weltmeisterschaft nach 2 Läufen in Führung liegt. Erste Kyalami und 3. zuletzt in Brasilien. Obwohl er dort einen Motor gehabt hat, der um 1000 Umdrehungen weniger gedreht hat, als er sollte. Alain Prost Schwierigkeiten hier im Training nur mit der Turbokühlung, obwohl es nicht besonders heiß ist hier in Long Beach, ungefähr 25 Grad. Das ist also deutlich weniger als noch vor 2 Wochen im Hitze-Grand Prix von Rio de Janeiro in Brasilien. Bruno Giacomelli, 5. schnellster im Training, der 2. Fahrer von Alfa Romeo. Er war der Mann, der zuletzt eine Trainingsbestzeit für Alfa herausgefahren hat in Watkins Glen im Herbst 1980. Und damals hat Bruno Giacomelli auch 30 Runden lang im Grand Prix geführt. Giacomelli wurde allgemein höher eingeschätzt als sein jüngerer Teamkollege De Cesaris. Zum ersten Mal aber war De Cesaris in einem Training hier schneller als Giacomelli. Der Italiener hat in Long Beach immer spektakuläre Ausritte, Kollisionen und Karambolagen. Er ist hier noch nie sehr gute Rennen gefahren, aber Giacomelli hat das bis jetzt beste Ergebnis für einen Alfa Romeo erzielt, und zwar den 3. Platz im Grand Prix von Las Vegas im vergangenen Oktober. Und wann Alfa zuletzt gewonnen hat, wissen Sie vielleicht, 1951 in der großen Ära Fangio, Fagioli und Farina. Nelson Piquet, der zuletzt in Rio de Janeiro dieses mörderische Rennen gewonnen hat und bei der Siegerehrung dreimal zusammengebrochen ist, hatte hier im Training einige Probleme, ein Motorschaden am Freitag, ein Unfall am Samstag, der Wagen konnte repariert werden, ein neuer Sturzhelm, Sie sehen es groß bei Nelson Piquet, und dieser Schlauch dient dazu, dem Brasilianer Flüssigkeit zuzuführen. Piquet wird also ähnlich wie die Radrennfahrer bei der Tour de France heute während dieses zweistündigen Grand Prix-Rennens Gelegenheit haben, etwas zu trinken. Das ist eine ärztliche Vorbeugungsmaßnahme, damit Piquet nicht wieder einen Ohnmachtsanfall erleiden kann, wie zuletzt in Rio aufgrund des enormen Flüssigkeitsverlusts während eines zweistündigen Grand Prix. Gilles Villeneuve, Ferrari Turbo, schneller als sein Teamkollege Pironi, hat im Training nicht weniger als 10 Dreher. Er ist mit Grippe hierher gekommen nach Long Beach, hat sich aber an den Trainingstagen recht gut erfangen und war deutlich schneller als sein Teamkollege Pironi. Villeneuve, ein ehemaliger Sieger dieses Rennens, Sieger 1979 natürlich auf Ferrari, 3 Ferrari-Siege bis jetzt, und Mario Andretti hat ja früher schon gelegentlich gesagt, Long Beach, das ist eine Art Fiorano, West Fiorano, das wissen Sie, die Teststrecke von Ferrari, auf der Niki Lauda alles zusammengerechnet ja früher Monate seines Lebens verbracht hat. Keke Rosberg, der Nachfolger von Alan Jones im Williams-Team, war am Freitag trainingsschnellster. Warum ist er gestern auf den 8. Platz zurückgefallen? Weil er einen Kupplungsschaden gehabt hat, gleich in der ersten Runde des Trainings, dann auf den Ersatzwagen umsteigen musste, und mit diesem Wagen hat Rosberg nicht nur einen Dreher gehabt, sondern er ist draufgekommen, dass dieser Wagen überhaupt nicht auf die Strecke angepasst ist. Nach dem Rücktritt von Reutemann ist Rosberg die klare Nummer 1 im Williams-Team. Er hat ständig 2 Autos zur Verfügung, kann also zwischen beiden Autos wählen. Mario Andretti, der hier für Reutemann eingesprungen ist, hatte diese Möglichkeit nicht, denn er hatte nur ein Auto. Herrliches Wetter heute in Long Beach, der berühmte kalifornische Sonnenschein. Zum 7. Mal hier ein Grand Prix-Rennen, und noch nie hat es hier beim Training oder während des Rennens geregnet. Mario Andretti steht in der 7. Startreihe neben Eddie Cheever. Wie gesagt, Nachfolger von Carlos Reutemann, der am Sonntagabend in Rio de Janeiro, also heute vor 2 Wochen, seinen Rücktritt erklärt hat. Eine Entscheidung, die vom Williams-Team aber eine Woche lang geheim gehalten wurde. Reutemann sollte diesen Rücktritt selber erklären, das hat er eine Woche später getan, und inzwischen wurde Andretti bereits von Williams engagiert. Allerdings kann er voraussichtlich nur dieses einzige Rennen heute fahren, weil Andretti in Amerika sehr viele Verpflichtungen hat, USAC-Rennen, Indianapolis und so weiter. Hier sehen Sie zwischen den Menschenmassen die erste Startreihe. Andrea De Cesaris mit 1,27,316 und Niki Lauda geschlagen nur um 1200. Dann die beiden Renault Turbos, wie gesagt, René Arnoux schneller als Alain Prost. Dann Bruno Giacomelli mit dem 2. Alfa Romeo und Nelson Piquet, der schnellste der Goodyear-Fahrer. Villeneuve, Ferrari Turbo, Rosberg, der schnellste vom Freitag mit dem Williams. Didier Pironi mit dem 2. Ferrari. Jean-Pierre Jarier, für mich die drittgrößte Überraschung des Trainings nach De Cesaris und Lauda. Dann Watson, der heute früh der schnellste war. Alboreto, die beiden Amerikaner Cheever und Andretti. Lafitte mit dem Ligier Talbot mit einem alten Wagen, der neu kommt erst beim übernächsten Grand Prix. De Angelis und Menzel mit den beiden Lotus, die zuletzt in Brasilien recht vielversprechend waren. Patrese, der voriges Jahr hier Pole Position hatte. Guerrero fährt seinen ersten Grand Prix. Henton seinen ersten Grand Prix für Arrows. Jochen Maas, der bei beiden bisherigen Grand Prix-Rennen im Ziel war. Daly, Bösel, der junge Brasilianer, neuer Mann bei March, gemeinsam mit Jochen Maas. Tim Borgut mit dem Tyrrell und am Ende die beiden ATS-Fahrer Winkelhock und Salazar. Bei den letzten Grand Prix-Rennen.
このレースからですね、コースが若干変わったというのもあって。
Hello and welcome to Long Beach, California. I'm Bruce Flanders, and you could not order a better weather day. Sun out, shining bright, temperature in the mid-70s, and all systems are go for the Grand Prix. And here to help me call the action, motorsports journalist Pete Lyons.
Bruce, we've got the most sophisticated, finely tuned, and expensive road racing cars in the world here, but what it all comes down to is they're going to be going over 180 miles an hour through city streets. We'll go to the pits now in Barry Gill.
The man about to lead them around those pits is Andrea De Cesaris, 22 years old, the youngest man in the race, in his first ever pole position. And the man he bumped off pole was Niki Lauda, the man who replaced him in the McLaren team. No wonder he wants victory.
All right, let's go with the lineup as they make their way over to the starting line. The young Italian on the pole, car number 22, Andrea De Cesaris.
That's a Marlboro Alfa Romeo V12.
The Austrian, car number 8, two-time world champion, Niki Lauda.
A Unipart Marlboro McLaren Ford Cosworth V8.
Moving to row number 2, it's Renault cars, a pair qualifying there. The number 16 car, the quicker of the two, from France, René Arnoux.
Turbocharged Renault V6.
Next to him, leading the World Championship points chase at the moment, from France, number 15, Alain Prost.
Another turbo V6.
Third row, and here we find the Italian, number 23, Bruno Giacomelli.
The red and white Alfa V12.
And from Brazil, the man who is the defending world champion with number 1 on the car, Nelson Piquet.
The white Parmalat Brabham Ford V8.
Moving to the fourth row, Canadian, number 27, Gilles Villeneuve.
The red car Ferrari Turbo V6.
The only Finnish driver, number 6, Keke Rosberg.
Tag Williams Ford V8.
Row number 5, number 28, from France, Didier Pironi.
Red Turbo Ferrari V6.
Car number 31, also a Frenchman, Jean-Pierre Jarier.
A Sulla Ford V8.
Number 7, John Watson.
McLaren Ford V8.
Number 3, Michele Alboreto.
Tyrrell Ford V8.
Number 25, Eddie Cheever from the USA. And next to him, number 5, Mario Andretti. Then move to row 8 for the Frenchman, number 26, Jacques Lafitte, and number 11, Elio De Angelis. In the 9th row, it'll be number 12, the British driver, Nigel Mansell, and number 2, the Italian, Riccardo Patrese. 10th row, we'll find number 14, Roberto Guerrero, the Colombian, and the Britisher, number 29, Brian Hinton. The 11th row will be number 17, Jochen Moss from Germany, and number 33, Derek Daly from Ireland. 12th row, Raul Boesel in car number 18 from Brazil.
New Alfa Romeo 182, and he must really be on needles and pins now. You see him there to the left of your pictures, and to your right, his left, is the great ex-world champion Niki Lauda in his Marlboro car, who has dominated practice. Behind the Alfa Romeo and Niki Lauda are the 2 turbocharged Renaults of René Arnoux and Alain Prost. Then Bruno Giacomelli in the second of the 2 Alfa Romeos, and Nelson Piquet, the world champion, who won in Brazil, who crashed in practice, and away. Down, first of all, to Shoreline Drive, and it's Lauda from one of the Renaults, De Cesaris. De Cesaris leads. Now, he's got further than he did last year, because Andrea De Cesaris in the Long Beach Grand Prix last year failed even to get to the first corner before hitting Alain Prost. Now, his car is perfectly set up. He's on Michelin tires, which are ideal for this circuit, and the 12-cylinder Alfa Romeo engine is great for Long Beach.
Yes, it's the best non-aspirated engine, certainly power-wise, in the race. Cesaris had a marvellous practice. The car's gone very well all the time, but now he's under the greatest pressure of his life. He was in a highly emotional state after the race yesterday, and we'll be interested to see how he goes. But he's certainly streaking away at the moment, and seems to have settled in very well.
And the Marlboro cars are very well up indeed. There is the leading Marlboro Alfa. There goes Arnoux, who is in second place, with Niki Lauda in third position behind him. And this is the half lap. Don't forget, 75.5 laps. They first of all go round the course, then along Ocean Boulevard. They are now at Le Gazoumet, which is the sweeping hairpin, which leads round to a new section of the course. They're on this section now. It's an extra turn that has been put in since last year. So they are now coming up towards the end of the first full lap. And it is De Cesaris leading down to another new section. This is where Queens used to be last year. Look at the lead that De Cesaris has now over Arnoux, followed by Lauda.
Yes, Lauda's looking very comfortable in third place. He absolutely dominated practice here. It was a little bit of a freak result when De Cesaris stuck it on the pole. Lauda only did about 5 laps in final qualifying. He warmed his car up, did a very, very fast time. It was about 6/10 quicker than any of the rest of the field could get. The Renaults finally got it under 1 minute 28 in their qualifying laps, and then Lauda was actually on his way to the press conference, and the flag was out, and De Cesaris stuck in this very quick lap. But the moral pole winner and the man as I say, who dominated practice throughout, was Niki Lauda, and he at the moment, with all his experience, looks like he's taking it just nice and comfortably behind the Renault. He'll be in no great hurry to get past. He won't want to see De Cesaris go too far away, but I think that he'll be pretty confident that he can make his moves slowly. It's a long race, it's hard to pass, it's important for him to pick his spot and keep out of trouble, keep everything in good shape.
And significantly, that is one of the ATS cars. It looks like Salazar. You can see clearly enough what the trouble is with the rear wheel smashed off the car. And in fourth position now, it is Bruno Giacomelli. Bruno Giacomelli, so the two Alfa Romeos are in first and fourth places. Tremendous pressure, of course, on the leader, Andrea De Cesaris. He's only 22 years old, ex-kart champion of Italy, Europe and the world.
Yes, De Cesaris had a very checkered season last year. His first year in Formula One, he crashed an enormous number of times, made a lot of mistakes, seeming capable of keeping the car on the island. And of course, he's now on the most pressure of all. And what his temptation for an inexperienced driver will be, he's out in front leading the race, and he'll be tempted to try and get away and possibly to attack the circuit too quickly. Street circuits are not the circuits that require really attacking driving. They require very careful, accurate driving, because you're completely enclosed with solid concrete walls. But at the moment, he's looking very steady indeed, and Renault's holding on, but which of course should put a bit more pressure on De Cesaris. But it will be, in fairness, a surprise, albeit a very pleasant one, if he can hold the pressure and keep the thing on the island.
Well, maybe De Cesaris has settled down. Heaven knows, as James said, he had a dreadful season in 1981. He went off, really off, no less than 8 times, and some really catastrophic crashes. But maybe he's worked it out of his system. Last year, he was driving in the Marlboro McLaren team. Before that, in 1980, he had just 2 races for Alfa Romeo, and he's certainly holding his lead over René Arnoux on the right of your picture now in the turbocharged Renault, Niki Lauda, and Bruno Giacomelli is closing up in 4th position. In 5th place, it is Gilles Villeneuve. In 6th position, it is Alain Prost in the second of the 2 Renaults. Then in 7th place, it's Didier Pironi in the second of the Ferraris. 8th is Keke Rosberg in the Williams.
Yes, talking about the Ferraris, Villeneuve's driving, there was quite a lot of excitement up and down the pit road, but Ferrari came out with a fascinating and rather splendid interpretation of the regulations, saying that a wing is allowed to be a certain width, but there's nothing about how many wings you can have. So they've got 2 wings, one each side of the back of the car, which in effect makes a much wider wing than the regulations allow. I don't know that there was a lot of sort of talk of protests and things yesterday. Obviously, the rule will have to be clarified, because that's an advantage, but they didn't seem to go a lot quicker in practice as a result of having the big wing on, and therefore, of course, I don't think that the protests were flooding in, but it was, I think, really a political move by Ferrari just to show a loophole in the regulations, and probably an attempt to get it clarified for everybody in the future. But it's all made for a bit of fun and a bit of talk in the pits.
And significantly, the leading 4 cars are on Michelin tyres, which are ideally suited to this Long Beach circuit, because the 2 Alfa Romeos, 1st and 4th, are on Michelin. Niki Lauda, that we are looking at now, is on Michelin, and so is the yellow and white Renault. And now De Cesaris is leading René Arnoux by close on 2 seconds, in fact 2.8 seconds. He's extending his lead, Andrea De Cesaris. There, number 8, the great ex-world champion, Niki Lauda, came back into racing after 2 years out of it, drove a magnificent race in South Africa and finished in 4th position, failed to finish in Brazil, so he is very much out for World Championship points. And if I had to be putting money on anybody in this race, and look at the way Giacomelli is closing up, I would be putting it on Lauda.
Yes, Lauda, of course, has got the perennial problem of having a turbocharged car in front of him with a big power advantage. Arnoux only has to cruise it round the corners. Of course, he's not doing that at the moment. He's going as quick as he can, but it's fairly evident from the way Lauda's pressuring him that he would be going a lot quicker if he hadn't got the Renault in front. It's just a question of persuading, really. It looks as if he's going to have to persuade Arnoux to make a mistake, because up until now, he's never looked even close enough to get in a properly challenging position to overtake. See, now he's right up behind him. The power of the Renault will now take the Renault away from him. Renault out-accelerating the Marlboro McLaren quite substantially. But Nicky, of course, is experienced enough to be patient. What will be annoying him is, of course, that while he's being delayed by the Renault in front, he's now got Giacomelli coming, starting to put pressure on him from behind. And there's De Cesaris building his lead very steadily, driving very steadily and impressively at the moment, I have to say, doing an altogether very much more mature-looking job than he's ever done before. So who knows? Yes, he's sliding the car very nicely there. It's a yellow flag we got there. We can't see what the incident is. So presumably means somebody's stopped or parked or hit the wall there while the marshals are tidying up. They're very efficient, the marshalling at Long Beach. They get the cars off the circuit very quickly if there's any damage and things. It's really a wonderfully organised race. It's quite amazing in that the first time Long Beach was run was 1976, and it really has become probably the classic race on the calendar. It's certainly much more popular with the teams and all the performers than the old idea of the classic race, which was, of course, Monte Carlo. A little mistake from Arnoux there. Unfortunately, it was going into the corner, so Lauda had to back off too and couldn't get a run. But he just seemed to... Yes, Lauda's attacking, but of course... And there goes Giacomelli, taking advantage of the hold-up from
Giacomelli going through, and off comes the wing, and out goes Arnoux. And at that very moment, I'm sorry to tell you, we lost picture, so we will have to regain that.
It looks like Lauda managed to emerge. Here we get an action replay. Let's hope we can keep our picture through the action replay. Giacomelli forcing his way through the inside on the mistake. Lauda locking up his brakes. He's touched the back of the Renault. Oh, sorry, no, it was Giacomelli. Giacomelli, so he slid into the back of the Renault. Lauda got away with no trouble. That will be very unfortunate for poor Giacomelli, but it's pretty impetuous and attacking. He overcommitted himself then, and that solves all Lauda's problems. He now has a clear run after the leading car of Andrea De Cesaris.
Ian, that was a wonderful example of the red cloud I was explaining to you earlier. It's a situation where he saw an opportunity to pass and completely overcommitted himself and got too carried away, and as a consequence took himself and the Renault off as well.
Nicky Lauda's point of view is that he now has a clear circuit in front of him, and there is no doubt at all about the fact that René Arnoux was holding up number 8 here, ex-world champion Nicky Lauda. We are on lap 7 out of 75.5.
Yes, he was certainly holding him up, but it was a highly impetuous piece of driving by Bruno Giacomelli, which has in fact been a feature of his driving career. He's fairly excitable Latin temperament, the young Italian driver, and very much of a similar character, or certainly by reputation and past form, as his teammate Andrea De Cesaris, who is now leading the race, but now we'll see quite a different sort of pressure, because his pit will, as soon as he gets past there, will be informing him that Lauda is behind and attacking, and at the moment that gap starts to come down, if of course it does, De Cesaris still looks quite cool there. If that gap starts to come down, that's when the old panic button can go in the head. Of course, with the gap closing, you tend to try and go faster and faster, which of course is going very close to the walls. He's using all the road, but it all looks very good at the moment. Let's have a watch for the gap and see if Lauda is in fact managing to do anything about closing it. Back marker keeping out of the way.
And as De Cesaris passes the Tyrrell, we are on lap 7, which is just over 1/11th distance. And as you see, De Cesaris is now leading Nicky Lauda by 5 seconds. In third position, now that Arnoux is out and Giacomelli is out, it is the Ferrari, the turbocharged Ferrari of Gilles Villeneuve. Then up into fourth place in the Williams comes Keke Rosberg. In fifth position in the second Marlboro, it is John Watson, who has just actually got ahead of Rosberg as I talk to you. And in sixth position, it is Alain Prost.
That was one of the Ferraris stopped there. You saw the wide rear wing. I couldn't identify. It was Pironi, was it? Yeah. So Pironi stopped for unknown reasons, looked like mechanical.
So the The troubles are hitting all the way down the field. Arnoux out, Giacomelli out, Pironi out. So that's one of the turbos out for Ferrari, one of the turbos out, the Renault. And there, as I talk, is Arnoux's car with exactly the same sort of problem as the ATS had, the near side rear wheel. Now look at the gap. There is De Cesaris. And I've got the stopwatch running. The gap was over 5 seconds, and it is now 4.63 seconds on lap 8. So Niki Lauda is inexorably gaining on the leader and pulling away from Gilles Villeneuve in 3rd position, Watson 4th, Rosberg 5th, and in 6th position, Alain Prost in the Renault.
Yeah, well, now the interesting thing comes to see how well young Andrea De Cesaris can handle the pressure, because this really is the moment of maximum pressure for a Grand Prix driver, being chased by a car that's a little bit quicker, trying to hold a lead that you've worked all your life for, and it really does get very tempting to try and go too quick. But of course, what he should console himself with, but it's a difficult thing to do, is the realization that, of course, it's one thing for Lauda to catch him up, but that's by no means loses him the race, because the Alfa does have more power than the Cosworth-engined McLaren that Lauda's driving, and if De Cesaris handles everything right, good shot of Niki Lauda there, working hard, very hard work in these. We're seeing a replay again here of the incident. Giacomelli going inside, quite frankly, very unfortunate for René Arnoux, who was a completely innocent victim, going into the corner. Giacomelli just overcooked the whole thing. Niki Lauda, all his experience showing beautifully, could see a potential incident coming, kept well out of the way, looking for anything, and never even looked like getting involved.
Just like an airplane, they don't last very well.
We're working lap 8, coming around to complete lap number 9, and you're looking once again at the leader, the young 22-year-old Italian who we had the interview with earlier.
And look at him use all of that racetrack.
Look how close they do come to those concrete block walls. They really are cutting a fine hair through there, aren't they?
You've got to use all the track to get the best out of the car.
Picking him up on Pine Avenue once again. He is the youngest driver in today's Grand Prix at the age of 22. And by the way, the average age is something like 29 and a half years of age.
And Mario Andretti, of course, who's come back for this race, is 42 years of age. He's the oldest at the moment.
Down into the Linden Avenue portion, and now onto the manufactured part of this racetrack for just a short period of time, and then they go back out onto the concrete surface streets, which have been blocked off here since roughly Wednesday night at around midnight is when this city makes a transition to a race course. Our leader, De Cesaris, he has got an interval of approximately 3.8 seconds over the Austrian, Niki Lauda. Gilles Villeneuve, the Canadian, running in the 3rd place spot, 13 seconds back at this stage in the game. And then number 7, the Britisher, Watson. He's 13 seconds back also, and right on the battle with Villeneuve. There is number 6 suddenly appearing in this picture, Keke Rosberg, who for the first several practice sessions and time sessions was one of the quickest men on this racetrack. Then they adjusted something on his car, and he's no longer that competitive, or wasn't in the last qualifying session.
One of the problems with this track, of course, Bruce, is that inasmuch as it's only built a few days before the race, the teams never have a chance to practice and test on this circuit in the weeks before as they normally do. That means you have to have a complete guess as to tire compound when you come here. And as we saw as the results of qualifying, the first 5 cars in the grid were all running Michelin tires. The first Goodyear car was 6th. And this is significant in terms of qualifying, although it's another matter in the race, because, of course, they can't run the qualifying tires during the race.
We're looking at number 7, John Watson, the Britisher, who just moved into 3rd place, displacing number 27, the Canadian Villeneuve. And Watson is in one of his highest positions right now that he's been on for a couple of years on this circuit, right?
Yes, John has been around for years. He's from Northern Ireland, of course, and for a period of time he has been the only British driver in Formula One. He's won 2 victories, but he's almost always there.
And I see Nelson Piquet. There's a wonderful scrap developing, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. John Watson, who got the car beautifully beautifully set up, as James said, in the warm-up period here this morning. Fastest again on Michelin tires like his teammates, and that's Prost. That is Prost. We have already seen Arnoux out of the race, and there goes the second Renault, and I remind you that Alain Prost, that we just see getting out of the car to retire, is actually leading the World Championship from Nelson Piquet, 4 points ahead of Piquet, who is currently in 6th position, closing up on Keke Rosberg, who is in 5th place, Villeneuve, who is 4th, and the man we are looking at, John Watson, who is 3rd. Ahead of them, Niki Lauda and Andrea de Cesaris, and it is the 3 red and white, seemingly identical looking Marlboro cars in the first 3 positions, although 2 of them are actual Marlboros and 1 is the Alfa Romeo, the lead car of de Cesaris. And it is therefore a V12 engine, de Cesaris, leading the 2 Ford Cosworth V8 cars of Lauda and number 7, John Watson. There is Watson in the John Barnard designed car, and you can see the difference between the competitors there, between Watson, who is in 3rd place, and Piquet, who is 6th. There is some 7 seconds, or there was, but Piquet is much closer now. Nelson Piquet, who won in Brazil and is 2nd in the World Championship. Watson, the winner in Britain, a man with an enormous amount of experience, John Watson. This is his 125th Grand Prix, and he's won 2 of them. He won in Austria in the Penske in 1978, if my memory serves me right. He won at Britain, and here is that great driver, Niki Lauda, great tactician, great politician, and now let's take the gap, which was 5.44 seconds, and it is now down to just under 3 seconds. So Lauda with plenty of time ahead of him, and he is incredibly fit. He's been training all through the winter, and he claims to be the fittest man on the circuits these days, and that could well be true. And now de Cesaris will be seeing him coming up in his mirrors.
Yes, I think de Cesaris could probably see him now anyway. He knows from his pit signals that he's being steadily closed on, but we passed the 10-lap stage, which most of the cynics, I have to include myself amongst those, were not giving much money for de Cesaris to complete more than 10 laps, and so we're all very pleasantly surprised by the young Italian, who at the moment is doing an outstandingly good job. But Lauda closing up, and it'll be interesting to see if Watson is actually catching Lauda or not, now that he's got himself clear of the pack and has got a clear track between the 2 of them. But Lauda really is driving very, very well. He's approaching it with enormous enthusiasm. He's looking extremely happy and relaxed and thoroughly enjoying himself, which is always a good pointer to really how somebody's feeling. One thing you can't do with these racing cars is drive them well if you're not enjoying it.
Well, so there is 22-year-old Andrea de Cesaris, and there is Giacomelli. That is Bruno Giacomelli, who is de Cesaris' teammate, watching the young Italian, 22 years old, in car number 22, leading 33-year-old Niki Lauda in car number 8, the Alfa Romeo. There it is, leading the Marlboro, same colour scheme. And where is John Watson? There is Lauda coming through. There is de Cesaris, I'm sorry. Now, where is Lauda? They're keeping really close on the picture. And they're closing up now on Brian Hinton. That's Brian Hinton in the Orange Arrows car, the British driver. And incidentally, his teammate Mauro Baldi failed to qualify, as did Chico Serra, Paletti, Derek Warwick and Teo Fabi in the Tolman cars once again failed to get in. 2.8 seconds only, and Niki Lauda fastest lap on the circuit so far.
I don't remember whether we mentioned it or not, Murray, but of course, just for your information, to identify the 2 cars, the Alfa Romeo has a black rear wing. That's probably the biggest differential feature, whereas Niki's McLaren, same colour scheme, there it is with the red rear wing.
And with de Cesaris past Hinton, Here is Lauda. We are on lap 14 in this 75.5 lap race. Number 22, De Cesaris, leading the man we're looking at, number 8. In second position, Niki Lauda. There is Lauda passing Hinton. It's certainly less than 3 seconds now as they come down to the end of the straight. In third position, it is John Watson. In fourth position, Villeneuve. In fifth position, it is still Keke Rosberg. In sixth position, it is Nelson Piquet. Seventh is Michele Alboreto. Eighth position is Eddie Chiva. And now Lauda is really going to harry Andrea De Cesaris. And this is going to be the ultimate test of the Italian's cool.
Yes, because Nicky's come up behind him very, very quickly over the last couple of laps, which of course just makes the pressure worse for De Cesaris. And he's now got him absolutely filling his mirrors, and the temptation, of course, is to drive with your eyes in the back of your head instead of the front, when in fact the best way to handle a situation like this really is to ignore the guy behind you and concentrate on keeping just keeping it very clean and straight and no mistakes, because we are De Cesaris' tactics now should be and have to be that he's no longer in a hurry, because he's not about to get away from it. So there's no point in trying to go quickly at sort of full race type qualifying speeds. His job is to protect his lead, and the only way he's going to do that is by making no mistakes, giving out an opportunity. Of course, the back markers are a bit of a problem, but oh dear, and Lauda's going to be able to have a go. No.
That's Raul Bursell in the Rothmans car, and Lauda going through. Lauda through into the lead.
Well, that was very unlucky for De Cesaris, and a pity for us, because the scraps were Lauda protecting the inside there in case De Cesaris has a go. But Raul Bursell, I have to say, got in the way in a really spectacularly bad manner. I mean, that was very bad driving by him.
はい。後ろのチェザリスも自然吸気なんで。
Here we see the replay. Bursell has already held him up. De Cesaris couldn't get the power on. Lauda got down the inside and was able to nip through. But I have to say, it's really bad luck for De Cesaris, and it's a great shame because we didn't get a chance to see a scrap, because my bet has to be that Lauda will now draw away, quite honestly.
Well, on lap 16 now, new leader, Niki Lauda, and Andrea De Cesaris is only in his 19th Grand Prix, and just let us look at the experience of the man, number 8, that he is up against. Because Niki Lauda has been driving for 14 years. This is his 116th Grand Prix, during which he has scored 295 World Championship points, third only to Jackie Stewart and Carlos Reutemann, who has now retired. And in that time, Niki Lauda has won 17 Grand Prix, second 15 times, third 7 times, on pole position 24 times, and he's put up 17 fastest laps. So although he's been out of Grand Prix racing for 2 years until he came back in South Africa at the beginning of 1982, he is unrivaled for experience now. And the question now, I think, has to be twofold. Can De Cesaris keep up with Lauda, secondly, and can John Watson cut down that nearly 18-second gap between himself and De Cesaris, who is now in second place?
I think Lauda just...
Ian, I think you saw a very good example of inexperience versus experience. De Cesaris knew that he had Lauda right behind him, and even though it was Raul's fault, the other guy in the Rothmans car, it was his responsibility to get out of the way. I believe De Cesaris should have driven with that in mind, that he may not have got out of the way, and placed his car in such a way that if he was slowed down by the other car, Lauda couldn't have got past. But Lauda saw the situation coming, got himself ready and took full advantage of it. Now it'll be very interesting to see how ragged De Cesaris gets in his bid to keep up with Lauda.
It's Niki Lauda, an airline in Austria with very great success, and is a very, very accomplished pilot. Great businessman, Niki Lauda, from second place man Andrea De Cesaris. And it's the Marlboro car. There is Alain Prost, a very miserable, and who can blame him, Alain Prost, who finished extremely well up in third position in Brazil, won in South Africa, and is now seeing the possibility of 9 World Championship points going to Niki Lauda, who already has 3. And if Lauda wins this race, it would put him second in the World Championship to Alain Prost, and only 1 point behind him, but there's still a long, long way to go.
Right-hand turn. Approximately 80% of the corners here require you to exit in second gear off of the corner.
That's the weak point, I think. The fact that the second gear takes such a hammering here.
We're going to go pit side once again, and Barry Gill is there.
Didier Pironi, one of the great drivers of the world, the Ferrari star. What happened to you?
Well, I had a braking problem since the start of the race, and at the end I couldn't brake at all, and I touched a wall and I broke my drive shaft.
Very disappointing for you, Didier.
Well, I think the Ferrari could do a very good race. We see with Gilles, and we wait for the end of the race, but I think the car, for a turbo car, was very good for this race.
Well, we've got Gilles Villeneuve at the moment in 4th place. Do you think he's going to move up from there?
Well, I hope very hard for him, because I think the place of the car should be in the 3 first.
Didier, bad luck and good luck for Gilles. Thank you.
The 2 Americans in this race are currently running in 8th and 9th place. Number 25, Eddie Cheever, and number 5, Mario Andretti. 8th and 9th at the moment, and about 35 or 6 seconds back behind the leaders. And there he is. There's your leader right now, twice-time world champion, running well at the moment, Niki Lauda. We have completed now 17 laps, and they are working the 18th at the moment.
This race has been shortened, Bruce, from the previous distance, which used to be 80 laps. Now it's going to be 77.5 laps. The circuit is about 5% longer than it was. It used to be 2.02. It's now 2.13 miles around.
The circuit itself changed from last year, as you pointed out, but I have heard reports that the circuit is going to change again next year due to all the construction going on here in the city of Long Beach.
Yes, it is. The city alive, they call it, and there's an enormous amount of money flowing into this city. There's new construction everywhere. There's going to be a new hotel occupying what was the circuit last year on the west side of the track. That's why the Queen's Hairpin turned into a Queen's 90. Next year, the pits, which is up the hill on Ocean Boulevard, will be abandoned to the race, and the cars will stay downhill and go through the tunnel in front of the Long Beach Convention Center. That should be pretty noisy. Barry has something down in the pits.
One of the things we hear is that one of the reasons for changing this circuit, and I must tell you, a lot of the drivers are disappointed because they really love the hill.
Well, they say they don't come back, but if it's any encouragement to our studio host, Alan Jones, out there, the wide world of sports, Niki Lauda is certainly coming back. And now here is the battle between Gilles Villeneuve, number 27, in that staggered wing Ferrari, and Keke Rosberg for 4th position. It is still, of course, out front, and there is number 5, and that is Reutemann's replacement, Mario Andretti, the man who won here before, because Mario Andretti won this race in 1977, and it looks as though he's out of it.
Yes, he had a bit.
What James was saying about the hardness of the cars and the difficulty in driving them, Ian, is that not only is it physically hard, but it's also wrecking all the internals, the kidneys and all that sort of thing. The cars have hardly got any suspension at all. And apart from the physical aspect, they're just very unpleasant to drive. They bounce all over the place, whereas a couple of years ago they had suspension and you could line them up and drive them nice and smooth. But I noticed that Andretti's just come in for a pit stop. I would imagine he probably started the race on a softer set of tyres, considering his low grid position, and now he's paying the penalty by coming in and having to replace them with either another set or a harder set.
Alan Cunning, I think, the Ferrari team manager.
Yes, well, you see, it calls itself 2 wings. They actually mount separately and sit side by side. You see, one is forward of the other one, but it's a bit of what I'd call really acute rule bending. But if there's a loophole in the book, then it should be clarified, and hopefully this will clarify. They're just both going past a back marker, but no opportunity. That's, of course, always the danger period, as we saw. That was how Niki Lauda got presented with the lead on a plate, sadly, for us viewers who were hoping for a scrap. But Rosberg, of course, will have a lot of problem getting past the super powerful Ferrari, and Villeneuve has become a master of using that power advantage. He's been driving some pretty nasty chassis from Ferrari. Ferrari have never been great chassis makers. You see Rosberg climbing all over him. Villeneuve slow onto the power. Can he outdrag him? It looks Rosberg's alongside. He's inside for the corner, and he's through. Little mistake by Villeneuve to get it on. I was just saying what a master he was of using that power to keep in front, and the wretched man goes and makes an idiot out of me like that. But fine piece of driving by Rosberg, looking for just that sort of mistake. Look at the power of that Ferrari as he accelerates back, and he's having... Yes, oh dear. And that's amazing. Villeneuve just walked past him on the straight, but Rosberg still counter-attacking.
And the interesting thing is that although in slowing each other up by climbing all over each other's cars, metaphorically speaking, Villeneuve and Rosberg have got John Watson, who is in third position, in sight, and I think we're going to see a very close battle for third position before very much longer. But that was a supreme indication of how incredibly powerful these well over 550 horsepower V6 turbocharged Ferraris are. The much nimbler Williams, Tag Williams of number 6, Keke Rosberg, third position in the World Championship, got past Villeneuve when he failed to put down the power quite as fast as he might have done on some of the twisty bits. But immediately they hit the shoreline drive section, the fastest part of the course. Villeneuve was able to put his foot down, feed the power through to his Michelin tyres and sail straight past Rosberg.
Well, back into the hairpin again, where Rosberg passed him last time. Let's just see if that Ferrari really is slow around the hairpin. Yes, Rosberg back inside again. Can we see a repeat performance? Yes, we can, but judging by the way things happened on the straight last time, Villeneuve won't be too worried. Now they come around this new corner that they put in to slow the cars down on the straight. Villeneuve's a little bit farther behind this time. I think Rosberg has probably got enough air between them. In fact, Villeneuve's actually disappeared out of sight. Where's he gone?
Well,
there
now
he is, yes, closing up again, but Rosberg looks to have enough space this time, and he's got the inside of the corner, protecting it. Oops, and Villeneuve got onto the marbles. He spun it, but he stopped. He's still in the race. He's lost very little time, and then there is Piquet, I think, climbing...
Sorry, James, that's Piquet right up with Villeneuve, who did exactly the same thing there as he did on the first lap at Queen's Hairpin last year. Queen's Hairpin doesn't exist anymore. It's been taken out of the circuit. But now there is Rosberg in a secure fourth position, a new fourth place man, and behind him some distance is Gilles Villeneuve, and right on Villeneuve's tail then is Nelson Piquet, the world champion, trying for another point.
And here we see it again, the Ferrari, amazing pace coming. He catches Rosberg right up from fully 30 yards behind, and now he's trying to outbrake Rosberg round the outside. The irresistible, irrepressible racer spirit in Villeneuve, but he gets on the slippery stuff. He turned in just a little bit late, and now of course he's on the marbles, but brilliantly controlled. He really does have the most amazing car control, because that would have been a much wilder spin in the hands of most drivers, and he got it right back into the race, and he's not lost very much, but he may well have lost his battle with Rosberg, because Rosberg is now hammering up the exhaust pipes of John Watson by the look of things, and so a battle is now developing for third place between Watson, who holds it at the moment, and Rosberg, who's right behind him. And this is a more evenly matched scrap, because they've both got Cosworth engines, and Rosberg's attacking, and has he got inside? Oops! Ooh, that was a tight one.
Now, the interesting thing is that before this race began, Frank Williams had a little chat with Keke Rosberg, who is famous for his powerful style of driving, and warned him, reminded him that after South Africa and Brazil, he only just had enough rubber on his tyres to finish the race, and Rosberg has got to curtail his enthusiasm a bit. This is a very rough course on tyres, and Rosberg is really throwing the Williams about. He's up to third position man John Watson.
Yes, of course, this is his breeding being finished. He was brought up on ice, where they learn car control and they learn to throw cars about and get them very sideways. And of course, this doesn't really suit a Formula One car. As Murray says, it puts a lot more wear on all the components. It's also not the quickest way to drive them, but we can't accuse Rosberg of not being quick, so he's certainly managing it from that point of view. But at the moment, he's got to throw it about, because he's having a scrap with Watson, and his main preoccupation for the time being is to try and get by Watson and capture that third place.
Well, we are on lap 23, watching the battle for third position between John Watson in the red and white Marlborough and Keke Rosberg in the white and green tag Williams car. Ahead of both of them is Niki Lauda leading on lap 23. Andrea De Cesaris still coolly holding that second position, now some 4.5 seconds behind Niki Lauda, and there is 33 seconds between De Cesaris and the battle that we're looking at, Watson and Rosberg.
Only about 2 places to do a clean overtake at this circuit. What you need for passing is a long braking zone. You need a tight corner preceded by a reasonably long straight. There's only 2 of those here.
Rosberg has had some pretty good successes in this car, having just come on board with this team this year, hasn't he?
Yes, Rosberg is a revelation, really. He's always been a very fiery driver. He did a season or 2 of North American Atlantic Championship racing where he was wildly spectacular. He's a wonderful driver to watch. He won the title. He's gone into Formula One for a couple of years and didn't have quite the car that he has now. He was always very spectacular, but now he's got the equipment to allow his talent to show through.
We're going to go pit side once again, and with some items about Mario with Barry Gill. Barry?
Well, there you see the picture, the sad picture for all American viewers. Mario's decided his car isn't handling properly. He stepped out of it, and the race for Andretti is over. But let me give you one piece of very hot news. I talked to Frank Williams just before the race, and they are going to do everything possible to persuade Mario to continue in Grand Prix racing when it doesn't conflict with his USAC commitments. Back to the booth.
I'd love to see Mario Andretti drive anywhere. He is a tremendous ambassador for the sport of motor racing.
He is.
We've got the lead as it's going right now. Niki Lauda, De Cesaris, Watson, Rosberg, Villeneuve, and Piquet.
軽いと。同じ燃料を積んでいても軽いと。
マクラーレンも水タンク積んでましたけどね。
そうなんですか。
容量どのくらいだか分かりませんが、はい。ただこの当時のマシン見ていくと面白い。おお。
今壁当たりましたね。
触れましたね。
はい。
今のようにこの辺も看板もですね、いいもんじゃないんですね。私デトロイトグランプリ行った時に見ましたけれども、よく見てください。これ壁触れるじゃないですか。これね、壁にね、糊でね、実は紙の宣伝を貼ってるんですね。だから別にそれが飛んだだけです。
あ、そうなんですか。
でも相手はコンクリですからね。パンクしなきゃいいんですけれども、こういうふうに相手を追い回している時のペケは速いですね。この黒いところちょっとコーナリングスピード落ちてきているような気がするんですけれども、あそこ多分路面砕けてるんですよね。この辺はコンクリですけどね。
現在はここは3位争い。
And Mario Andretti seems to be back into the race. We saw him go off the course, and I thought he was getting out of the car, but he seems to have got it restarted. He's gone past us. Arnoux out of the running. Giacomelli is out of the running. Pironi is out, and now Rosberg challenges again for third position, and I wonder how much longer John Watson is going to be able to stave him off.
Well, apart from early on, we had one real go. Rosberg looks to me as if he's scratching a bit for ideas and may have to go back to the old story of relying on Watson making a mistake, because of course the other thing is this circuit, Wall Street circuits are hard work to drive, and we already know it's a major subject and discussion how hard these cars are to drive, and it's twice as hard work in physical output to be climbing over the back of somebody trying to get past them, because your car doesn't handle quite as well in the turbulence, and you've got to be that much sharper. That yellow flag's still going, but we don't see why. So the question is how long Rosberg can keep up this really hard climbing all over the back of Watson. At what point he's going to have to say, I want to keep it as close as I can behind and just keep the pressure on and hope I can persuade him into a mistake. But of course you've got to keep pretty close in order to pick that mistake up if and when it happens.
And all the time, Villeneuve and Pironi are gaining. When we get these two in a long shot, which hopefully we will do soon, you will see that Villeneuve in 5th position and Piquet in 6th position, not Pironi, Piquet in 6th position, are together, as you see on the caption there, and they are gaining on Rosberg and Watson. There was 4 seconds in it there. I think there is less than it now, as hopefully we will see. Down to the right-hander, Watson in 3rd position, number 7. Rosberg number 6 in 4th place. It is still Niki Lauda leading on lap 27 out of 75.5, and De Cesaris still 2nd.
Yes, I think Lauda's probably eased up already. It was a feature of his driving before in that he always seemed to be fairly satisfied with a small lead. I think a lot of drivers, myself in my day included, like, who is that? That looks like Piquet's back.
Piquet, I think it looks like Piquet's helmet.
So Piquet had another one because he crashed quite heavily in practice yesterday. He worked a lot to repair his car because Patrese crashed another Brabham before that, the day before, so Brabhams were a bit short of cars. They had an all-nighter, and so Piquet has found these walls too much for him. That's twice in 2 days, and he won't be well pleased with that. We didn't see the incident. We don't know exactly how it came about, whether he just made a mistake or whether he was trying to pass in his battle with Villeneuve, because they were locked in combat at the time. But as I was saying about Lauda, I think it was a feature of his driving. He always used to be satisfied with a fairly slender lead and then pace himself to the car behind. I'm on the other hand, and that is Patrese, who must have had a spin by looking. He's also knocked the front wing off, and so he's just trying to do a 3-point turn, apparently not making a very good job even of that. But most drivers like a bigger cushion.
Rosberg
challenging, and looks as if he's going to do it this time. He's got the space, he's inside him. Yes, he's got the line, and Rosberg, his efforts are rewarded. Now let's see if Watson can retaliate at all. Well, Watson making a mistake, sliding wide there. He was off the line on the slippery stuff.
And Rosberg comes round that corner. That gives you an idea of how incredible these drivers' reflexes are. On the previous lap, that corner, of course, was completely clear, and that, number 31, is Jean-Pierre Jarier, who was extremely quick in practice. Indeed, he was 10th fastest in practice. Now, Rosberg came round that corner, and he sees Piquet's car. Now, if they come round, that crash truck is right on the racing line.
Absolutely, he's seriously on the racing line. And then he should have backed it into the corner. That's a very, very dangerous situation indeed. And that yellow flag is not being waved nearly strongly enough. I think that
Jarrier's car stationary. Now, Rosberg missed the stationary Piquet's car, but there's now that crash truck right to the right of Piquet's car.
Well, they're going to have to put marshals in the track to warn them, because this is really dangerous. But maybe the marshals are warning them.
That is Lafitte.
Jacques Lafitte, helmet off. The cars are going down like 9 pins at the moment. Now, I think this may be a reflection on how hard the race is physically, because it looks to me as if these sort of mistakes are being made out of tiredness, and where we haven't even reached half distance, and the cars are so hard. If you remember in Brazil, Patrese stopped at about, or if not before half distance, suffering just from plain straight exhaustion, and it looks as if it's really taking its toll here. They don't have the space that they do on a conventional closed type circuit where you've got runoff areas and things, and you can make these little mistakes. Here there's no peace for the wicked at all, and one little slip with a little bit tired, just physically not being able to work those arms well enough to pump the wheel around, puts you in the wall. And we've just seen, goodness knows how many cars. I've lost count in the last 5 laps. We've lost a lot of cars.
Well, let's take...
I think, Ian, also what's happening with the circuit, I've noticed there's a lot of oil flags in evidence, and I think someone's dropped a bit of oil, which is making conditions very dicey for them all. But as James quite rightly stated, that tow truck's in a diabolical position and should never have been put there. The other thing which I notice is maybe the Goodyear tyres are starting to go off just a little bit. Piquet looked like he understeered straight into the wall, Patrese spun, and the back of Rosberg's car is getting very loose, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
At 28 laps of the 75 we're going. It is Niki Lauda, the Austrian, out in front. Andre De Cesaris, the Italian, in the 2nd place spot. Rosberg is in 3rd, Watson 4th, 27 Villeneuve in the 5th place spot, in the first of the Ferraris. There's Rosberg, our 3rd place driver, the only one of the Tag Williams cars left out on the racetrack at the moment.
Boy, cars are failing by the wayside here. This is a tough racetrack, and we're not to half distance, and we're losing.
And there, number 3 is Michele Alboreto, and Alboreto is behind Villeneuve. So the order on lap 29 is Niki Lauda leading Andrea de Cesaris, with the new third-place man, Keke Rosberg. Down to 4th position has gone John Watson. Still in 5th place, number 27 there, Gilles Villeneuve. And up into 6th position has come Michele Alboreto with Chiva 7th.
Yes, an excellent performance by Alboreto. Now, who was that behind Alboreto then? I saw it looked like Watson.
Yes,
Watson
I think it was
back.
John Watson.
So Alboreto's really come up well. He's doing very well indeed. It's hard to say how good. Obviously, the Tyrrell is working very well here, but Alboreto is certainly a revelation. He came from nowhere, has no real track record. Look at the flames coming out of the Ferrari.
Watson into the pits.
Yes, Watson was in trouble then.
Yes, Watson pits, and the cars are not going down like 9 pins, but they're certainly disappearing fast from this race. Tyres.
They're giving him tyres. It looks like to be the only problem. Of course, they do that as standard anyway when you come into the pits, even if there's anything else. But they don't appear to be doing anything else to the car, so it just looks like Watson's in trouble, which, of course, bodes badly for Niki Lauda, who I think that's Lauda we see in the lead. Maybe that's why he wasn't able to extend his lead, although they didn't anticipate having a problem with tyre wear and tyre overheating, but there is De Cesaris still behind him, giving him a hard time.
The gap, James, is now only 4.3 seconds between Niki Lauda and Andrea de Cesaris. In fact, it looks less than that.
No, I think that's Watson coming out of the pits. Murray, I think I saw a car just coming out of the pits then. Let's just have it, because it was a red-winged car. There goes Lauda. We hold the shot behind him. I think we'll find that Watson has got himself in between them, which of course could be good for Niki, except that Watson will probably be running quicker than either of those cars, because he'll be on fresh, cool tyres, which give you more grip. Now, when they go in, even if there's something wrong with the car, at this stage of a Grand Prix, it's standard for a team to whack on a new set of tyres, a fresh set of tyres rather than actually brand new, scrubbed in and ready to go, because the cars always perform a little bit better. The fresher the tyres, the quicker they are usually.
Watson now out on fresh rubber. It'll take him a lap or two to get the tires warmed up and working properly, and we'll see what happens.
The potential exists, certainly. We'll have to be watching it.
Niki Lauda, the big right-hand corner, going into the funnel again, and you'll see as he comes through that funnel this time whether or not the SCCA corner workers have gotten the corner all cleaned up. Yep, Piquet's car is gone, and so is the other car that was broken there.
You know, those corner workers are the real heroes of this.
Let's go sidebar to go down to, once again, the man who's watching all this action for us and keeping us up along pit row, Barry Gill.
Well, we may have done that particular tyre company Michelin an injustice, saying the tyres were wearing because of the normal circuit wear. According to the mechanics, Watson had a spin, and that can do what we call a flat spot. I think you'd better explain that one, Pete, back in the booth.
Well, of course, when the tire spins, it starts sliding along the road, particularly if the driver's put his foot on the brakes, and it can grind a flat spot on what should be a round tire profile. That sets up an enormous vibration. It can break things. It can be so severe. Steering can break, and of course the driver gets terribly uncomfortable. He certainly can't go at racing speed with it flat spots.
Niki Lauda, our leader, whom we're watching right now, debuted in Formula One in a March in 1972. He drove nothing but 12-cylinder cars exclusively, including the BRM, the Ferrari, and the Alfa. This is the very first year that he's in a Ford Cosworth-powered motor, and it would have a different torque characteristic and horsepower, wouldn't it, Pete?
Yes, in some ways it's easier to drive, in some ways it's less easy to drive than a turbocharged car. The turbo cars seem to have a wider power band. A typical Renault engine, for instance, will start at about 7 or 7,500 RPM, go to about 10.5 or 11. The Cosworth engine really has nothing below about 9.2 or 9.5, and it peaks at about 11.2 in racing conditions. So the driver of the Cosworth engine has a much narrower power band. He has to shift gears more often and keep the engine on the boil.
Let's go pit side once again to Barry Gill. Barry?
これ何か罰則というのは何かあった？
Well, Lauda is on lap 32, 75.5 lap race, so we're still not even at half distance, and there are only really about 12 cars in the running now, 14 on the circuit. There goes De Angelis in the JPS 91. Coming towards us is De Cesaris. There goes the Italian in second place. So he's lasted half the race.
Yes, I have to say a most creditable performance by De Cesaris. I think whatever happens to him now, one would have to say that this has been the outstanding drive of his life. He's done far better than anybody expected, suffering from youthful impetuosity throughout his career, to the point that he was discarded by the McLaren team at the end of last season, and they were even talking of discarding him mid-season. They were so unhappy with his inability to keep the car on the road, and he's in possibly the toughest circumstances that he's ever faced. He's driven almost flawlessly.
And his history is, as I said earlier on, like so many of today's drivers, he started off in karts. First of all, he was Italian champion, then European champion, then world champion. Then he moved up into Formula 3, and in 1979 and 80 he was in Formula 2. He won the Formula 2 race at Misano. He drove for Alfa Romeo with the flat 12 engine car in the Watkins Glen US Grand Prix and the Canadian Grand Prix of 1981. Then he switched to the McLaren team as it was last year, and you've heard what James had to say about that. And then it was a bit of a surprise when Alfa Romeo decided to take him on this season, and a lot of the less charitable people said that it was primarily because he was Italian, but it looks as though he's getting the last laugh now. Here is Keke Rosberg in 3rd position, and we must get a stopwatch on this fighting Finn and see if he is closing the gap between himself and Andrea De Cesaris, number 22 in the Alfa Romeo, who is in 2nd place. We are on lap 34. Lauda leads, De Cesaris 2nd. There is Rosberg on a clear part of the circuit. In 4th position, it's still Villeneuve. Piquet's out of the race, as you know. Alboreto is in 5th position. In 6th place, it is Eddie Cheever, making some sort of a drive in the Talbot, which was absolutely diabolical at Brazil. Jack Lafitte is out of the race. We've seen that happen. In 7th position, it is Elio De Angelis, who has already been lapped by Niki Lauda. And then in 8th position, it is John Watson, who is now out of the pits on fresh tyres and will no doubt be the fastest man on the circuit with fresh rubber, and really anxious to get back into the points. Indeed, this looks, there's Villeneuve and Alboreto. Now, Alboreto in the blue unsponsored Tyrrell is right with Villeneuve and trying to do to Villeneuve what Keke Rosberg did earlier on, and he seems to lack Rosberg's power. I don't think he lacks any of the Finn's tenacity, and that is De Cesaris. It's happened again. Andrea De Cesaris has lost his cool, as he did so many times last year. There's the fire extinguisher going out, and James, it's happened again.
Yes, what a great shame. Still, as I said before, you can't take it away from him. He did a lot better than expected, but he's crashed very heavily too. It looks as if he's hit that wall very hard. There's a lot of damage at that front end, of course, he must be pretty tired by now. But quite honestly, this is why a lot of people felt that he had no future and no career in Grand Prix racing, because he did last year. Despite, before every race, exhortations from his team and everybody around him were telling him there's no hurry, just drive slowly, just what you must do to crash. He seemed quite incapable of not crashing. As I say, he did much better today, but sadly, he's done it again. And quite honestly, you can't win a race if you're not in it, and if you're going to crash, Grand Prix racing is not for you. And it really does look as if De Cesaris, shame though it is, and exceptionally well though he's driven, he was not under pressure at this stage. He was following Lauda, he was in good shape behind him, and he's thrown it away. We didn't see exactly what happened, of course, but and one must, in fairness to him, say it could have been a failure on the car. He may not have made a mistake, and we would be wrong of me to criticise him out of hand until we know the absolute facts of it. But it looks as if he's done it again.
Well, a lot has already happened as we come fairly close to the half-distance lap. The half-distance lap is lap 37. my quick mental arithmetic tells me, in this 75.5 lap race, and we're now on lap 36. Niki Lauda has got an incredibly secure lead because he is now no less than 40.40 seconds ahead of the new second place man, Kenji Rosberg. But if Rosberg keeps going and just stays in second place, he will finish up this US Grand Prix West in the lead of the World Championship. And there is Mike Mansell, who has slowed up Villeneuve and is now being passed by Alboreto, and in the process Alboreto is once again right with Villeneuve, who had pulled away from him. And we're looking now at the battle for third position between the Scarlet 1.5 litre V6 turbocharged Ferrari with flames bursting out of the exhaust pipes behind Villeneuve, and Michele Alboreto for third position. And who's that? That looks like Brian Henton out of the race, climbing. Yes, it's Henton. So Henton in the Arrows is out. He did well to qualify all last season, driving for the Turbo Tolman team. He only qualified for one race in Italy, which he finished. And then he was fired by Tolman, and this year is driving for Arrows. Has qualified here, which he did not do in Brazil. And there is Villeneuve in third position. Now, can Michele Alboreto, 25 years old, there he is, number 3 from Milan, another ex-Formula 3 champion of Europe, and then last year he also drove in Formula 2 as well as for Ken Tyrrell. There is the new positioning, and you see it's 57 seconds now between Lauda and Rosberg. It was 40 seconds between Lauda and De Cesaris, and Rosberg at the time was 17 seconds behind De Cesaris, who has since crashed. So now there is a long gap between Lauda and Rosberg.
We're just coming up to half distance, and half of our cars have gone out.
This is an unusual one here at Long Beach, as we have destroyed effectively several cars, but it looks as though, and I don't want to be erroneous on any reporting, I have heard nothing about any injuries to any of the drivers at all, but they have sure ruined some cars.
This is tough stuff.
And that's Nelson Piquet, the last of those cars. No, it's not, of course. Piquet's out. It's Patrese catching Elio De Angelis, and I would not be surprised if we do not even get a full World Championship leaderboard at the end of this race, because with only 10 cars in the running on the half-distance lap, that means to say that 16 have gone out in the first half of the race, 10 left, and that is Elio De Angelis in the JPS 91, car number 11, being chased by Riccardo Patrese.
Yes, who, if you remember, we saw earlier had a spin. That's Brian Henton's Arrows just being manhandled away. He's only got one front wing left, but it doesn't seem to be retarding his progress in any way. He's recovered from his spin and is now going at it like a good.
I remember here at Long Beach a few years ago, Alan Jones in the FW06 Williams car had exactly the same thing happen to him that Patrese has had. He had his offside front aerofoil dipping and scraping along the ground, and I gather, although I don't know from experience, that on a comparatively slow circuit like this, the loss of one front aerofoil does not make all that much difference. Indeed, Alan said he didn't even know he'd lost it.
Yes, and these days they're more sort of stabilising fins just to get the airflow going under the car. They really do very little the down thrust. That's all done with the aerodynamic shape underneath the car, with the ground effect shapes, gives them their suction and the huge quantity of grip that they're getting. And yes, De Angelis taking the inside line, Patrese leaping about two Italians at each other, hammer and tongs. There's probably a bit of fighting for a bit of national pride here, as well as passing, making it all that much more exciting. But Patrese certainly never known to give any quarter in a battle. But well, that looks like I think that's where De Cesaris crashed. I think they just left his wheel and hub lying around, and that's a pretty silly thing to do, because the brake assembly inside one of those wheels, it's a pretty heavy component, and a driver goes off there and hits that, he can do himself a lot of damage. No, oh dear, they're really scrapping away. And Patrese done it, though. That was terrific stuff. And De Angelis made lots of feints and ducks and weaves, and Patrese was with all of them, and finally lit through on the inside.
It's not only a battle between two Italians in two different makes of car, of course, it is a battle for World Championship points, because here, as we see the replay of Riccardo Patrese in Brabham number 2, passing his countryman Elio De Angelis in the JPS 91, Patrese moves up into 6th place and moves up into the World Championship points. So he is in the running for 1 World Championship point, which is 1 more than he's got at the moment, because he doesn't have any after South Africa and Brazil.
Of course, just remembering that miles out front, we've got Niki Lauda, who now, of course, is on purely an endurance run. He's will be very happy, I should think, with Watson having had to go in for tires to have the pressure completely removed, and I should think that Niki is now just nursing everything, particularly his tires, particularly himself and his concentration, and he really has got it on a plate, and it's not the sort of position from which Niki Lauda is known for making mistakes. So now it's up to the car to survive the remaining laps, because nobody's going to threaten him for speed.
If you have been seeing a car stationary for some laps and you're wondering whose it is, the answer is that it is the Scarlet turbocharged Ferrari of Didier Pironi that we saw getting out of his car some good few laps back, and it's obviously been decided to leave it where it is. It is off the racing line, and heaven knows we've seen enough trouble with the crash truck pulling Piquet's car off the course, and it was quite lucky that nobody drove into it. We are on lap 40 now. In this 75.5 lap race, we're looking at the 6th place man, Riccardo Patrese, the Italian, who for 4 years, from 1978, 79, 80 and 81, drove in the Arrows team, and then Bernie Ecclestone and Gordon Murray persuaded him to join Brabham this year, and he drove the Turbo Brabham in South Africa. He drove the Ford Cosworth powered car, because this is the 49D car, and he's closing up now, about to lap, I think it's Derek Daly in front of him, we'll soon see. No, it is one of the March cars. It's probably Raoul Purcell again, who is still going round, much slower, because this is only his first season of Formula One Grand Prix racing, and it is indeed Raoul Purcell.
He behaved much more politely that time than he did when he rather spoiled the race from everyone's point of view up front when holding up to Cesaris earlier on.
Well, Patrese streaking away now from Elio De Angelis. Patrese in 6th position, trying to make up ground on the 5th place man Eddie Cheever that we've not seen for a long time. It's still Michele Alboreto in 3rd place. Villeneuve is still going well. We just there is Villeneuve, and a good scrap which is continuing. Michele Alboreto, and it looks as though Ken Tyrrell has again signed a very likely man. He had Eddie Cheever with him, who showed great promise, which unfortunately he's not been able to exploit in this year's Talbot Matra, Eddie Cheever. But Michele Alboreto has driven extremely well this season, and he is now in number 3, 4th position behind the Scarlet Ferrari of the French-Canadian Charger, Gilles Villeneuve, number 27 there, who's got 6 Grand Prix wins behind him. That's Villeneuve in the Ferrari. The turbo car. This course at Long Beach, and very wide indeed goes Alboreto.
Yes, I think it was just a mistake, nothing wrong. He just looked to me like he got out on what we call the marbles, with off the line with all the dust and rubber dust that goes down. You get like that, but he had to slow right down, and he was skating about, and he just managed to avoid the wall. He seems to be intact, and I'm quite sure that he's a lot quicker than Villeneuve. He's harassing him from the back, and I don't think it'll be very long before he's right back up his exhausts again. As long, of course, that he's got no fundamental problem. Other than that was just a little error.
As the race progresses, Ian, the cars throw rubber from their tyres, and any dust or oil build-up that was on the racing line gets gradually thrown out to the outside, and this is what we call the marbles. And if you miss a gear or leave your braking a little late, the car has a tendency to run a little bit wide, and you get onto these marbles, and it's just like driving a normal car on ice. And this is what we'll find as the race progresses. It's you have to stay on line on this circuit, because of its tight, twisty nature, it has a tendency of throwing more and more rubber to the side, and I think this has probably been the cause of 1 or 2 casualties so far.
The championship, and asked him what changes he would like to make.
I'd like to see 3 things. I'd like to see the reintroduction of suspension movement as such, a reduction in the downforce that the cars produce, and a limitation on the engine power, I think.
What about fuel consumption, Gordon? Because the whole world is worried about economy.
No, I think that's nonsense. I think when it comes to entertainment, we use so little fuel. That would be a purely political move.
All right, well, out in front of it, there's a shot of our leader, Niki Lauda, who has lapped every one but 5th place at this point. And Niki Lauda is definitely back into the competition. As far as being retired for 2 years, coming back, Lauda said that he found the cars.
And Niki Lauda now is far from slowing down, going quicker than ever. He's obviously decided that the pace he's going is one at which he is perfectly happy. And with that lap of 1 minute, just over 1 minute 30 seconds, he is 4 seconds slower than the fastest lap in practice put up by Andrea de Cesaris, and about 3 seconds slower than his own fastest lap in practice, which was the 2nd fastest lap of all in the 2 practice sessions. And Andrea de Cesaris only punted Niki Lauda off the pole position in the very last lap of the afternoon yesterday. Lauda then race leader, lap 42, 50 seconds ahead of Rosberg, and I would expect even Keke Rosberg, as Lauda comes down to the end of Shoreline Drive and through into the new complex of bends, I would expect even Keke Rosberg and his tremendous fighting spirit to be happy, perhaps on signals from Frank Williams, who will be sitting immovably on the pit wall as ever, giving him signals to settle for 2nd place. Because, as I said earlier on, Keke Rosberg, who now has 8 World Championship points, if he finishes 2nd, will get 6 more. 8 and 6 makes 14. Alain Prost, who is leading the World Championship at the present moment, but is out of this race, has 13 points. So once again, we would have, if Rosberg finished 2nd, the familiar situation of one of the Tag Williams cars leading the World Championship. Alan Jones brilliantly won the World Championship in 1980. Then for most of 1981, his teammate Carlos Reutemann led the World Championship until that catastrophic race at Caesars Palace, Las Vegas, when Alan Jones went out in the most superb blaze of glory by fighting one of the best races I've ever seen to win, and Carlos Reutemann collapsed, didn't even finish in the points, as a result of which a collapsing Nelson Piquet just finished in 5th position and won the World Championship. Well, here is Lauda, ex-world champion himself twice, in 1975 and 1977, separated in 1976 by James Hunt, who is alongside me now, world champion. And Lauda now closing up on tailenders. He's about to catch and lap Nigel Mansell, the British driver, number 12, who is in 10th position.
Well, as world champions, a lot of us about ready to a penny. Alan, of course, should have won it last year. Murray, I shall now embarrass him by talking about it, but he was far and away the outstanding driver in Grand Prix racing last year, and he had one of those years that happens to everybody when he had at least 3 races completely won and sewn up, and his car let him down, and that happens, and it always tends to happen to defending world champions. I think Alan would probably agree that last year was the best he drove. I think he probably drove better than the year before. I certainly felt that in my best year as a driver, that when I gave my very best driving was the year after I won the World Championship, and I had the same situation, 3 Grand Prix with inside the flag breakdowns, and it's just the way the luck runs, because your luck averages over the long period in this business as in any other, but in the short term, like a year or 2 years, luck plays a very big factor, getting in the right car and also having the car run and finish.
And Niki Lauda is now lapping.
Well, that was very nice of James. I'll have to buy him a few beers when I see him at Monaco, I think. But he's quite correct in what he's saying. It's a hell of a lot of luck involved in this business, and you can be right on form and driving very well, have everything going for you, and then find that a 75-cent piece or something puts you out of the lead of a Grand Prix. But that's one of the wonderful facets of this particular sport. The cars are man-made, and there's men driving them, so anything can happen.
My morale's down, but my body's good. Thank you, Brian. Well, big problems on the circuit for all the cars then.
Well, we can watch them as they go around, and the drivers are taking that shock load. You can also see that Niki Lauda has now gotten around Eddie Cheever, and that means that Lauda has lapped everyone now but the 4th place car, and he's trying to do that in a rapid hurry. He's got to get by a couple more before he catches up to Michele Alboreto. Watch him right here as they bounce on that front straightaway, and
that's John Watson behind him. Now, Watson is still in 8th position, but Watson is definitely catching up, because in number 11 is in 7th place, and that is De Angelis.
Yes, that's right. Watson, after his pit stop, he lost, he came out over a lap behind, but he's now on his fresh tyres. He should be in better shape than De Angelis, who's got tired tyres, but Watson must have made a bit of a slip then. He's dropped back a little bit, but he seems to be sliding about a lot. Maybe he's got more tyre troubles.
The tearing up of the surface that Barry's found out.
We're watching right now number 7, John Watson, the man who came in and had that 12.3-second tire change to get back into the action. Watson right now is listed on our leaderboard. In fact, he is not listed. He's several laps down, but we have him unofficially now in about 8th place. We'll watch and see. Yes, there he is, 8th place. And the John Player Special of number 11, Elio De Angelis, is in 7th place, and they are on the same lap. There is 7th place De Angelis in the black Lotus.
That's a new Lotus. It's only doing its 2nd race. It's a brand new Lotus from Cullen Chatton with a carbon fiber chassis. One of the interesting things that Cullen has come up with is an adjustable wheelbase feature on that car. They've tried it during practice. They can adjust the front suspension in any one of 3 different positions and 2 positions for the rear, extending the suspension from 108 inches wheelbase to 110.
Rosberg there, a good shot of him cleaning off his face shield. He is now 44 seconds behind Lauda, running in the 2nd place spot. And we see Eddie Cheever into the pit area, and they are attacking Cheever's car. It looks like a tire change for him. Here come the tires off the Talbot car. And Eddie Cheever, the only USA driver still left in this, sits patiently in the car, keeps the motor cleaned out and running.
That's a beautiful 12-cylinder Matra motor, by the way. That's been a veteran in Formula 1 for over a decade, winner at Le Mans.
Well, they're ready to drop him back down. Watch how quickly he gets away from this, as Cheever, who is sitting 5th, would like to, as we are on the leaders are working the 46th lap, he'd like to be on fresh rubber. The drivers are saying that this racetrack in some areas is coming apart. You'll want to be on the best tire you can for the 2nd part of it.
Yes, but it's not worth making a pit stop for.
All right, let's go down again to Barry Gill.
Well, interesting that, according to my watch, that pit stop took 25 seconds, which is more than twice as long as the John Watson one. Those could be very valuable seconds indeed at the end of this race.
Barry, let's not forget the McLaren crew's many, many years of experience at Indianapolis, where, of course, pit stops are vital.
You're nothing if not a patriot, Peter.
All right, we're going to be giving you the listings.
Let's recap on what has happened in the last few minutes, because Eddie Cheever, having been caught and lapped by the race leader, Niki Lauda, when he was in 5th position, has gone into the pits for tyres in his Talbot Matra car. And so now, on lap 48, in this 75.5 lap race, as we look at Keke Rosberg motoring smoothly along in 2nd place in the Tag Williams car, Niki Lauda is a good 40 to 50 seconds ahead still in the lead in the Marlboro car, and this would be the 2nd win for the Marlboro car in its short career, because The British Grand Prix was won by John Watson last year. In third position now, up into third position, is Gilles Villeneuve. In fourth position, Michele Alboreto. And then in fifth position, now that Eddie Cheever is out, it is Riccardo Patrese. And in sixth position, it is Elio De Angelis. And Cheever, of course, with new tyres on, will, like John Watson, be able to go a lot quicker than he was going before he went into the pits, but he will have lost the best part, if not the whole of a lap. Keke Rosberg coming out into Shoreline Drive, out of the new section of the course. He's into it now, the right and the left. This loop is entirely new since 1981. And there is Villeneuve, and Alboreto is ahead of him. That looked like Michele Alboreto. I just caught a flash of the blue car, in which case, now, are they going to let us see the car in front of Villeneuve? There is Gilles Villeneuve, who is either in third or fourth position as he comes into Shoreline Drive. So Keke Rosberg in second place has got the full length of Shoreline Drive ahead, and there...
It was certainly blue, so it was the right colour. We missed it, and in fact, Alboreto certainly isn't behind Villeneuve as he had been for some time. So I think it's reasonably safe to assume, right, because he would have had to stop. We can't quite get a glimpse far enough up the track to identify it. Well,
yes, it's Alboreto, somehow or other. There is that... no, it's not. It's not. It's Cheever back in the race. So Alboreto is still behind. There is Cheever, and there in third place is Villeneuve.
Yes, but that means that Alboreto has disappeared somewhere. So I'm afraid we've lost track of exactly where he's got to, because he was climbing all over the back of Villeneuve's car. And so does this mean Alboreto's had to go in for tyres or something like that, or has dropped back the tyres?
I think he's just dropped back a bit. We'll soon see, because Riccardo Patrese in fifth position is due with us, followed by the sixth place man. We're on lap 49 now.
そうなんですか、それってつけてちょっと意地張っただけみたいな感じはしませんか？
だからフェラーリもこのロングビーチで土曜になって、急にこれ
Race leader Niki Lauda down Linden Avenue, having taken turn 8, and he goes now into the right-hander, which leads into Indy, the very long left-hander, which in turn leads up to Le Gazoumet, the tight right-handed hairpin, from which, if you're in the right position, you can easily see the Queen Mary. Now he leads into what was the very, very long sweeping Shoreline Drive section, but into which this new loop has been inserted. And Niki Lauda is about to complete his 50th lap with 25 and a half to go, because they start on one side of this 2.13 mile circuit and finish on the other. And so Lauda, with the second place man Keke Rosberg a long way behind him, has got 25 laps. It's 2/3 race distance completed for the Austrian number 8 double world champion, 17 wins, ahead of Keke Rosberg in the Tag Williams, Gilles Villeneuve in the Ferrari. In fourth position, it's still Michele Alboreto, ahead of fifth place man Riccardo Patrese. Elio De Angelis is still sixth. John Watson has dropped back a bit in seventh position. In eighth position, Eddie Cheever, who's dropped right down from fifth place. And in ninth position, it is Jochen Maas. And then 2 laps back, Nigel Mansell is ahead of Raoul Boesel, and there are now only 11 cars as we look at Riccardo Patrese in fifth position.
Well, it is interesting you should talk about that amazing incident about the last right. Niki Lauda, when he talked about it later, said he was lying there, his head was swollen, he was unable to move or speak, and he thought this man would come in to comfort him, and then he started mumbling the last right. And Niki Lauda, and anybody who knows him will believe this, said, I made up my mind then and there that I was not only going to live, I was going to race, and I was going to show that guy that I wasn't ready for speeches. And that's the sort of man he is.
Niki Lauda is unique, for sure.
I don't know. I don't know how I would react. I had it happen once, but we won't go into that. It had nothing to do with racing. Lauda out in front of it, superb at the moment. We're watching Riccardo Patrese, the only other Brabham car left. He is running 5th at the moment and is down a lap to the famous Niki Lauda. There is the number 12 car, and that would be the other, that would be Nigel Mansell.
He's currently in 10th place.
And that is Lotus. Ken Tyrrell had pointed out to Barry that there are 3 two-car teams still left out there, one of them being the Lotus.
Well, they may not have been quite as quick, but the Goodyear runners certainly seem to be surviving more healthily on their tyres at the moment. And, of course, we still have a very long way to go. We've got 25 laps of the race to go, and a lot can happen. As I say, the Goodyear guys do seem to be holding up and not falling by the wayside with tyre problems. So it'd be interesting to see just what happens over this comparatively long distance still left.
Yes, let me not be a prophet of doom, but a lot of the Michelin runners have gone in for new tyres. Watson's gone in, Cheever's gone in. Niki Lauda is still leading on Michelin, and Gilles Villeneuve, of course, is on Goodyear this year in the Ferrari. And Keke Rosberg, who is in 2nd place, is on Goodyear. So is Michele Alboreto, who is 4th. So is Patrese, who is 5th. And so is Elio De Angelis, who is 6th. So the Michelin runners are Niki Lauda, who is leading, and John Watson, who is in 7th place. But, of course, John Watson has been into the pits to have a new set of rubber put on his car. That's Elio De Angelis, number 11, who is in 6th position. So Niki Lauda will be having to be very careful about his tyres, but on the other hand, as James has said, Lauda has got a tremendous amount of race experience, and he has a very considerable lead, and he could actually afford to give up several seconds a lap in order to conserve his tyres, and still on the 52nd lap do the remaining 23 that he has to do and finish with enough race run.
Something just coming a bit loose from one of De Angelis' skirts then on the other side of the car. Something sort of green strip dangling off. There it is, yes. I don't think that it would be anything terminal, but of course if the skirt's breaking up, he will potentially lose a lot of downforce, and that could seriously affect the amount of grip that he's got with his car.
Now, you've probably noticed from that caption that Keke Rosberg has reduced the lead that Lauda has, but it is still massive. It was at one time 53 seconds, it's now 46 seconds. James, when you're in as commanding as lead as Niki Lauda has got, what are you consciously doing to preserve tyres?
Just keeping it very smoothly, trying not to slide the car, which is not too difficult these days. These cars have got so much grip, they don't slide very easily, and just try not to spin the wheels as you put the power on coming out of the tighter corners, just rather as one would do with one's own car on the road. If you want to make cars last longer, you keep it smoother and don't slide the thing about. And that's what Lauda will be trying to be doing. And of course, he's probably feeling fairly insecure there in his lead, because he will by now be aware of the fact, I would think he's pretty bright lad, he knows what's going on. He'll be aware of the fact that a lot of other Michelin runners have gone in to the pits to change tyres. He will also probably have worked out that the pack behind him are all Goodyear shod, and therefore they seem to be winning on the durability stakes if he got an early start on the speed stakes. So he'll be, and the thing is, the problem is, Murray, you said if you slow down by a second a lap or so, he's got 46 seconds, he's only got 20 laps plus, which means that he slowed down by 1 second a lap, he'd win by 20 seconds. Problem is, you don't want to slow it down by too much, because at the end of the race, you start going, you want as much lead as you can. So what he'll be doing is trying to strike a compromise. He'll be driving as quickly as he can without sliding the car, basically, and without putting too much strain on himself also.
Well, we're looking, just to give everybody a fair crack of the whip, at the enormously popular Hermann the German Jochen Mass in his March car, and he's driving on Pirelli tyres, a third make-up tyre in this race, and down to go through and lap him again comes the race leader. There is Lauda, and he has lapped Slim Borgud. That blue car is Slim Borgud, the Swedish driver, who must have been into the pits and come out again. He's well down on our lap charts anyway. And it's quite a tragedy for Ken Tyrrell that he doesn't seem to be able to command any sponsorship these days, because neither Alboretto's car nor Borgud's car number 4 have got any real sponsorship money behind them. So there is Jochen Mass in 9th position in the Rothmans March, about to be lapped, and he indicates to Niki Lauda that Lauda should go through on Mass's left, which Lauda does. Jochen Mass was out of racing this year after the South African Grand Prix. The March team were very short of funds, and Jochen, who lives in and loves South Africa, has the advantage of living next door to the head man of the Rothmans concern, and Jochen is reputed to have popped round next door and come back with $4 million, as a result of which he is very much back in the driving seat of the March and leading their team, with Raul Boesel, the Brazilian, in the second seat. Niki Lauda leads, lap 55, 75.5 lap race, and I have said before, it looks as though it's all over bar the shouting, but 20 laps is still a long, long way to go. It is, after all, over 40 miles, about 42 miles, and with the punishment that the rubber must have been taking, even with Lauda's smooth driving style, it must remain suspect whether he can complete the race. But if anybody can, Niki Lauda will. Have a look for the telltale dark bands on the tyres, which can signify trouble, and there aren't any.
Yeah, the Michelins don't mark up in the same way. It's not a question really the rubber rolling. It's a big problem really as well. And I don't think it's a problem to go also to go the distance. What happens before you wear right through the tyre, they just when they get past a certain point, they just lose so much grip that the performance drops really markedly and too much. And what Lauda's trying to do is to preserve tyres within a reasonable level of performance.
Well, it's down to 36 seconds now, the lead that Lauda has over Rosberg.
Yes, that's pretty typical of Lauda's style. He was never frightened to let his lead be chipped away at it, and that doesn't, to me, yet signify that he's in any difficulty with his tyres. I mean, he'll have it all plotted out, that 20 laps to go, 36 seconds. That gives him nearly 2 seconds a lap to play with, to come back towards Rosberg with. He'll probably, it's quite like Niki to be coming back deliberately at a second a lap, and particularly he'd be very happy with a second a lap if he wasn't sliding the car around at all, and I think that's the sort of pace, just over a second a lap, that recently he's been losing ground at. But as I say, if he's not having to slide the car and he feels that his tyres are functioning all right, he's not going to be unhappy with that.
And Lauda is now catching, as we look at Rosberg in second place. Lauda, the leader, is catching Michele Alboreto, who is in fourth position. And Lauda is very soon going to have lapped everybody up to Gilles Villeneuve, who is in third position, behind number 6, Keke Rosberg, who is closing up on Jochen Mass. There is Mass on the right. Car number 18 is Boesel. So there goes Rosberg past him. There is John Watson, who is in 7th position, and on lap 57, Niki Lauda leads Keke Rosberg, number 6, the second place man. There he is in the Tag Williams car. Third is still Gilles Villeneuve in the Ferrari that we have not seen for a while, and who has yet to score a World Championship point in this 1982 season. Fourth is still Michele Alboreto in the Tyrrell. Fifth is Riccardo Patrese ahead of 6th place man, and last man in the World Championship points, Elio De Angelis in the JPS. 7th and dropping back is John Watson in the Marlborough. 8th is Eddie Cheever, who has been in for tyres, and in 9th position it is Nigel Mansell in the second of the JPS 91 cars. Then there is Jochen Maas. Raoul Barcel is behind, a lap behind, and he is the last competitor, excellent to be running on the course, of which there are now 11 out of the 26 who started. There's the caption, 20 laps to the end, and Lauda is 36 seconds ahead of Rosberg, who is, well, a good half minute, 40 seconds ahead of Villeneuve. So the interest in the race now has to be how much Lauda is pacing himself in the know, and whether this man, number 6, Keke Rosberg from Finland, driving in his first season in the Tag Williams car, can catch up on Niki Lauda. Rosberg 5th in South Africa, 2nd in Brazil in both races, only finished with the minimum of rubber, and he's certainly taking it out of his Goodyear tires in this US Grand Prix race at Long Beach. And of course the Goodyear concern, being an American company, will be, to put it mildly, very anxious not to be beaten by a car carrying the French Michelin tires in their own home country.
Of our friends here going around the circuit trying to decide which grandstand to buy a seat in.
Lauda in front, Rosberg, whom we're watching, in the second place spot. Third place is Villeneuve, Alboreto is fourth, Riccardo Patrese is in the fifth place spot.
See the bumps, watch his helmet.
Aerodynamically, there's some strange rules as far as that goes, is there not? As far as the slipperiness of these cars.
Well, most of the rules in Formula One are a little strange, and they get stranger by the year. They keep piling rules fix upon rules fix. I myself wish they'd just get rid of all the ground effects entirely, but I don't know quite how to write the rule to do that. There's a wonderful little game that goes on, although it's deadly serious, between the people in Paris who write the rules for these cars and all the designers who really are some of the most brilliant human beings you will ever meet. They go out and test all the time, they try new ideas, and of course they're spurred on by this incredible competition in Formula One, and they always come up with something that will beat the intent of the rule.
Well, we're watching Niki Lauda, who has now lapped everything but third place, and he is probably... he could reel third place in within the next couple of laps if he continues on.
Yes, he's a minute 13 ahead of Villeneuve.
17 laps left to go as we're counting down on that 75-lap run. The air, by the way, here in Long Beach gets filled with helicopters and airplanes of all kinds, to the point where the FAA actually sets up a headquarters here.
Yes, it's on the roof of the arena. The FAA has an actual control tower up there. It takes the form of about 4 guys sitting at a desk with radios and microphones. They've established a control zone here, which is about 3,000 feet deep and nominally about 5 miles in radius. And theoretically, any aircraft that comes in this way has to be under their control.
And what there is a new aircraft that has moved into public view in the city of Long Beach, and that would be the Spruce Goose.
The wonderful Hughes, right? The wonderful Hughes flying boat. Yes, and I had a chance to go aboard that one day a few months ago, and it was a marvelous experience. And that's here at Long Beach now, right next to the Queen Mary.
It draws an awful lot of people down to Long Beach and is one of their main attractions. But once a year, the city of Long Beach goes all out for racing. And the mayor of the town had a great chance to meet her, Eunice Sato, lovely lady who gets all behind this racing 100%. Lauda in front, Rosberg second, Villeneuve.
Well, Riccardo Patrese, I can tell you, although you haven't seen this on your screens, is really smoking through the field because he has caught and passed Alboreto, the Italian driver, and there we see confirmation of it as I talk to you. You see that Riccardo Patrese, car number 2, the Brabham, his teammate Nelson Piquet crashed and went out of the running a long time ago, but Patrese is upholding the honor of the Brabham team here in America because he has moved up to 4th place ahead of Alboreto in the Blue Tyrrell, who has therefore slipped down to 5th. And Patrese, the Italian, who drove magnificently last year here, he was in pole position in the Arrows, and he led the race for about 30 laps until his transistor box packed up and he had to go into the pits. He came out in 3rd position, held it for a while, and then had to retire, which was bitter gall for the Italian. There is Pironi's car that I mentioned earlier on, parked on the right-hand side of the circuit. And now Alboreto in the Blue Tyrrell, number 3, the 25-year-old Italian, there he is dropping back behind Patrese. He is in 5th position, and Patrese is now doing his level best to catch up with Gilles Villeneuve, who is in 3rd position in the Ferrari, but without, I must say, very much chance of catching him, because we are now on lap 61 out of 75 and a half, and it is still Lauda in the Marlborough with the Ford Cosworth engine, the greatest engine without doubt in the history of Grand Prix racing, and if it wins today by powering either Lauda's car or Keke Rosberg's car, it will have won the Ford Cosworth V8 engine designed by Keith Duckworth, an incredible 146 Grand Prix, which is far more than any other engine, and that is thanks to the fact that it has powered so brilliantly so many different makes and types of car. Patrese, there is De Angelis, and Watson now right with him. So John Watson, and he spins.
Oh, Watson probably very tired. I don't know, he got right up on the marbles then. He did quite well not to put it in the wall. I thought it's all slippery out there. I thought he was heading for the wall. So Watson back up again, and he's going backwards and forwards like a yo-yo.
Here it is again.
Going to see it again, yeah.
John Watson catching De Angelis, who is in 6th position.
On line there, and now just a little bit wide. Now you see all the, he's on the dusty bit, see off where the rubber things, all the dust come off the tires. Very slippery there. Oh, he must have missed the wall by inches there. Anyway, he's alive and lives again. This is a reverse replay now. Don't need that.
And there is De Angelis, who has taken advantage of that half spin by John Watson to consolidate his 6th position. There is the Italian, who was rumoured to be going to the Alfa Romeo team after being thoroughly disenchanted with what was the Lotus team last year, and he's now actually catching Alboreto. So Alboreto is probably pretty tired. He has been passed and pushed out of 5th place by Patrese. There is Villeneuve, first time that we have seen him for a long time. We're on lap 62. Villeneuve all alone in 6th position, behind the race leader Lauda, behind the second man Keke Rosberg, and Patrese is the man to watch, as for that matter is De Angelis. De Angelis in 6th position, pulling away from John Watson and catching up on Michele Alboreto, who has been displaced from 4th to 5th by Patrese. Villeneuve we're watching. You see the flames punching out of the exhaust pipes as he goes over onto the overrun, and whilst it was Renault, neither of whom, Prost's car and Arnoux's car, both out of this race, who pioneered the turbo car. Look at the flames coming out of Villeneuve's exhaust pipes there. Renault pioneered the turbo cars, but last year Ferrari decided that was the way to go and brought out their V6 car for a full season. This is the Ferrari 126C2 model with, like now, the Marlborough cars, a carbon fibre chassis designed by Englishmen with the unlikely name of Dr. Harvey Postlethwaite, and it really is his name. Lauda leads then. There's the gap, 34 seconds now between Lauda and Rosberg. That was on lap 61, and we're now on lap 63. Villeneuve some 40 seconds behind Rosberg, and then Patrese 4th, Alboreto 5th, De Angelis 6th, Watson 7th. In 8th position it is Nigel Mansell that we have just seen. In 9th position it is Jochen Maas. In 10th position Raoul Boesel, and really there are now only those 10 cars effectively in the race. 10 out of 26, Patrese, and that looks like Slim Borgood behind him, who has been lapped by the Italian. So both the Tyrrells are still in the running. That'll be good news for Ken Tyrrell. He's got no sponsorship money, but he will be getting quite a packet of money from the FOCA, Formula One Constructors Association Prize Fund, with 2 cars at the finish. But it's not, it's Alboreto. Alboreto has done a banzai charge, and he's closed right up now with Riccardo Patrese in 4th position. And in front of Patrese is Niki Lauda.
Yes, I think Lauda will just let them go and let them unlap themselves. He won't want to get tangled up in a battle.
Well, this may seem a little dull if the winner is letting them through, but it's a mark of Niki Lauda's ice-cool tactical brain. He knows exactly where he is. He will be getting pit signals from Ron Dennis, his team manager, which will be telling him that he's still some 32 seconds ahead of Keke Rosberg as he comes up to finish his 64th out of 75.5 laps. And Niki will know that he's losing very little, if anything. Yes, and he lets Patrese through, no doubt about it. Now he will move over when they've gone through this series of right and left swinging bends and let Alboreto through with the knowledge as they pass Pironi's stationary Ferrari that he's... Now here it is again. Watch Lauda move over, move to his left, to your right.
Yeah, he just braked early and predictably let Patrese through. He doesn't want to get involved in any aggravation, and he certainly isn't racing them. No, in fact, he's just letting out. Yes, he's keeping to the side now, letting Alboreto have the line, letting them get on with their race.
Well, Alboreto will be able to say, I passed Niki Lauda during the US Grand Prix West, but Lauda a long, long way ahead of him. And he's now on his way to his 18th Grand Prix, and that will move his points up to 304. He's 26 seconds now ahead of Rosberg, and there are 7 laps to go. So no, he's quite safe. He's very, very safe indeed. So that will make him 304 World Championship points. And I think that will actually move him back into second place in the all-time point standings, because Jackie Stewart is the highest number of points ever and the highest number of Grand Prix, 27. 10 laps to go. There's the gap, 22.281 seconds between Keke Rosberg, who is second and still trying to catch that man, number 8, Niki Lauda.
Well, I found personally, as an amateur driver, I lose concentration after about 8 laps. These guys have done over 60 laps, and they've got 500 horsepower underneath their right foot. They've got concrete walls and $250,000 machines.
So they are now probably at the point where a break in concentration could happen quickly.
Well, they, of course, are tuned to it. They're adjusted to it, and they're professional racing drivers, which I certainly am never going to be.
With the camera angles that we've got, those of you at home get a chance to see the asphalt that these drivers are talking about and the bouncing and pounding as they make a street circuit into a racetrack for just one weekend out of the year. There is Rosberg, the second-place driver right now, and he is only about 19.5 seconds back of Lauda and is closing. We had him listed just a few laps ago as 22 seconds back. So Rosberg might be on a roll and be reeling in Niki Lauda right now.
This has the makings of a terrific finish to this Grand Prix.
All right, Rosberg started in the 8th place spot. Now he is in second, but that second is still quite a ways away. They have completed 65 laps, 10 laps to go, less than 10 now, and he would have to pick it up at a rapid clip to have any kind of a chance at all to take the overall win.
You know, this pounding that these drivers are absorbing, it's shock loads up through the spine and the neck and bouncing the head around. I understand that Niki Lauda has a doctor who travels with him all the time. It's a fellow named Willy Dunkel, who is a famous Austrian sports medicine doctor, who advises Niki, massages him, and so on, develops his exercise routine to keep him in shape for this pounding. I understand that Willy Dunkel has said that it's a worse kind of pounding than even ski jumpers or downhill skiers go through.
Lauda did an awful lot of physical conditioning before he came back into action, too. He went to work on a lot of cross-country skiing or whatever during the winter to get ready. There is Lauda on Linden, now moving on to Seaside, and will be going on to the manufactured part of the racetrack right now. But the differential is getting tighter. We're watching that differential closely, and right now just under 20 seconds. So maybe they have given Lauda the pit board to let him know that Rosberg is beginning to close up a bit.
But Rosberg's going to have to make up that distance in only 11 laps now. I doubt that he can do it on straight driving and performance. He can only hope to do it if Lauda is in fact slowing.
There are 5 drivers now on the same lap as the leader. There were only 4 for a while, but Alboreto has unlapped himself. De Angelis is trying to make his way back up to the point where he could unlap himself from Lauda. De Angelis in that black John Player Special Lotus, but there is a shot at the highest speed portion of this course. Speed's in the neighborhood of 180 miles an hour. Then all of a sudden, from 5th gear, step on the binders like Niki Lauda is doing now. Pitch it off to the right, get it into 2nd gear, and go in through the narrowest portion of the racetrack. At that point in the track, right there, the racetrack is only 27 feet wide.
And of course, Bruce, if you imagine yourself down at the driver's eye level, you're actually below the tops of those concrete walls. It's like driving at 90 and 100 miles per hour through a narrow tunnel. There are places where you literally cannot see 100 feet ahead of you. If there's a piece of metal lying on the track, you'd hit it before you could even see it.
It looks as though they have given Lauda the get up and go sign, as here is Alboreto, who unlapped himself earlier, and now Lauda pressing on him. Lauda wants back by. It is Lauda, Rosberg, Villeneuve with 3 different teams in the front 3 spots. Lauda on that Marlboro Ford, and it is now a differential between 1st and 2nd place of 22 seconds. So Lauda has gotten back on the loud pedal again. Rosberg, that was the man that we had closing in on him for a moment in car number 6, the Tag Williams car. But it appears, though, now that race for the lead will not materialize as we had hoped it would.
Yes, the gap's back up to 20 seconds now from 19.
Rosberg, though, pulling away strongly from John Watson. He's also pulling away from everyone back from 2nd place on back.
It looks like there's still 2 healthy cars on this racetrack in 1st and 2nd place.
This particular car, and in fact the story about, well, there is the battle right now as Alboreto, who is sitting in the 5th place spot, trying to hold off the leader, Lauda. But the one we were watching a moment ago, Rosberg, he inherited a ride when Carlos Reutemann, no, he didn't inherit the ride when Reutemann retired.
When Alan Jones retired,
When Alan Jones retired.
Right,
Rosberg.
the 1980 world champion.
Who wore a unique neck brace at Brazil at the Rio Autodrome, a circuit which is tremendously bumpy and subjects the drivers to the most extreme physical G-forces, has dispensed with that neck brace here at Long Beach.
Yes, the strain on the neck at Long Beach is nothing like problems that for all the drivers that they were having in Brazil. Being a street circuit, the cars probably get the biggest G-forces in much faster corners than this, over 100 miles an hour, especially with a little bit of banking. These corners, they're not getting so much downforce, you see, not so much suction, because they're not moving through the air fast enough to get the aerodynamics really working. And so they don't, the G-forces here, the neck problems, have basically gone away for the drivers. I'm sure they'll be back. And of course, the hard training they went through in Brazil with 2 weeks to recover, they've all probably got slightly stronger necks by now.
Plus, of course, the fact I have just reminded myself that the Brazil course was run anti-clockwise, whereas Long Beach, like most of the other courses, is run clockwise. And at Brazil, therefore, it was the wrong side of the neck, as it were, that was taking all the strain. Keke Rosberg is taking the strain, but Lauda is doing it even better. The gap has now gone up to 22 seconds. So it really does look as though on lap 69, 75.5 lap race, it really does look as though Niki Lauda, world champion in 1975 and 1977 in Ferraris, has got the measure of Keke Rosberg. That's the confirmation of it. My 22 seconds was on our hand timing. It was 0.2 of a second out, which isn't bad in comparison with the computerized timing. So there is Rosberg, 5th in Brazil. fifth in South Africa, second in Brazil, and on his way to second here at Long Beach. This is most definitely the last race of this wonderful Patrick Head designed FW07, Frank Williams 07 Tag Williams car, because the FW08 will be appearing at the next Grand Prix at San Marino in Italy in 2 weeks' time. Rosberg has already gone incredibly fast at Brands Hatch, and the Tag Williams team reserve driver, Formula 3, now Formula 2 man, Dr. Jonathan Palmer, has this week in the FW08, there is Niki Lauda still leading, well away of course. Jonathan Palmer did a lap at Silverstone this week in the FW08 at over 151 miles an hour, considerably faster than the all-time lap record.
Yes, the great shame of it, talking of Jonathan Palmer, is that he's got himself signed up under contract for Formula 2 races, and there's now an available seat for him in the Williams team, which he definitely should be taking. His career is absolutely ready. It's a golden opportunity, and the poor guy must be being driven mad. But I hope that Frank Williams will be able to do some sort of a deal with his Ron Toronac, who has him under contract for Formula 2, and even if not, I think I would very much like to see Frank put Jonathan in the car for what races he can do, because he's a very promising driver, and the time is right, and their new car does sound, from all reports, to be absolutely fantastic and going very, very well in testing.
As we watch Niki Lauda, the race leader, with just 5 laps to go, in case you are mystified of all this talk from James and myself about a spare seat in the Williams team, it's worth telling you, those of you who don't know, that the great Argentine driver Carlos Reutemann, who retired at the end of last season and was persuaded to come back, there is Keke Rosberg, decided after the Brazilian Grand Prix 2 weeks ago that he really had enough, phoned Frank Williams and said, Frank, I am definitely retiring, as a result of which Frank Williams put in some frantic telephone calls and got Mario Andretti to drive for the first time in one of these FW07 cars here at Long Beach, and Andretti retired some time ago in this race, and it's questionable whether we will be seeing him in the Williams team again, because Andretti is very much committed to his American kart racing, C-A-R-T, that is, not the little ones. And there goes Lauda. Well, the gap's come down again, 1.3 seconds, but that's really no indication at all, because Lauda is now on lap 72. It really does seem that this truly great driver, and no words of mine can really say just how good he is, because after retiring from racing, having recovered from that dreadful crash he had at the Nürburgring when he was out of racing for 6 weeks in a situation where any normal human being would have been finished altogether, and yet he came back in 1976 and then went on and won the World Championship in 1977. Then at the end of 1979 in Canada, he just got out of the Brabham and said, that's it, and practice, I finished, and went home. He did not race at all in 1980 and 81, built up his airline, Laudair, decided after all that the lure of Grand Prix racing was too great to resist, and then there were a lot of negotiations over the winter of 1981-82 between Niki Lauda and several team managers who were only too anxious to employ this great Austrian. And it was the Marlboro McLaren team that got his name on a contract, and how very, very happy they must be feeling, because he was straight back into the swing of Grand Prix racing in South Africa after having been out for 2 years, and finished in 4th place. In Brazil, he got punted off the circuit by Carlos Reutemann, which may well have led to part of Reutemann's decision to retire. That says after 71 laps, with Lauda 22 seconds ahead, and he is now on lap 73. So only in his third Grand Prix after South Africa and Brazil, and now here in America, in California. In only his third Grand Prix after 2 years out of racing. It looks as though, with just 2 laps to go now, when he comes out of this loop and goes into the Shoreline Drive section, Niki Lauda will be well on his way to finishing this race. And what a wonderful drive it has been. Because when Bruno Giacomelli drove into the back of René Arnoux' Renault, Niki Lauda was right behind Giacomelli and managed, with a superb piece of driving, razor-sharp reflexes, to avoid both the Alfa Romeo and the Renault of Giacomelli and Arnoux, both of which were instantaneously out of the race. He moved immediately then from 4th place to 2nd place. Then he closed the gap between himself and Andrea De Cesaris, fought his way past, and has been very much in the lead ever since. And now he's driving round with Michele Alboreto, who he has already lapped. Alboreto in 5th position. So still on the same lap as Niki Lauda, which incidentally is lap 74, are Keke Rosberg, Villeneuve and Patrese. And actually Michele Alboreto is just on the same lap, but whether he's going to be on it very much longer remains to be seen, because I think Niki is debating with himself about whether he's going to pass him.
Well, if Alboreto's got no chance of catching the guy in front, he'd be very well advised to let Lauda through so he doesn't have to drive one more lap of the race, because if he finishes behind him, he'll get the checkered flag. If he goes past in front, he's got to go all the way around again. So he could save himself a bit of work if he's got no axe to grind over his position.
Well, once more into the fastest part of the course, once more up into top gear, once more at about 150 miles an hour, and down to the brakes and into the right-hander goes race leader Niki Lauda up towards the Michelob series of bends, then in up Pine Avenue and into the Toyota Bend right-hander, underneath the bridge there, along Ocean Boulevard. And Lauda is down the straight for the last time but one, and up in the rostrum is the official that will be giving him that checkered flag, because now Niki Lauda is on the last full lap in this 75.5 lap race. Let us go round. I'm sure the producer will stay with the great Austrian on his last lap. He's got a clear circuit in front of him. As you can see, the sporting American crowd, and it is a record crowd here. There were 50,000 people here yesterday to watch practicing, and there must be well on 100,000 people here today, are rising on the last lap to cheer Niki Lauda home for his 18th Grand Prix win in his superb career.
Yes, an absolutely marvellous comeback for Niki. Thoroughly deserved his win. From the moment that he got in a racing car again for the first time for over 2 years, when he started testing the McLaren before Christmas, he was completely rejuvenated with enthusiasm and aggression and everything to drive the car, and of course with all his experience and everything as well. He's, if anything, well, certainly a more formidable driver than he was in his last season or two before he retired, when he had other things on his mind. He was building up his airline business. Now he's giving it 100%. He's right into it. He's got himself fitter than he's ever been before in his life, and he's driving as well as he's ever driven, and he's rejuvenated the Marlboro McLaren team, and there he is to take the first win of his comeback.
And that means to say that provided Keke Rosberg, who is some 20 seconds behind Niki Lauda, who has won the US Grand Prix West of 1982 at Long Beach, and in the process, as I have said before, won his 18th Grand Prix. Provided Keke Rosberg finishes second, the World Championship positions will be Keke Rosberg leading Alain Prost, Rosberg with 14 points, Prost with 13, and Niki Lauda here will be in third position. That's Chris Pook with the beard, the man who is responsible, and he always has been, for organising this superb Long Beach Grand Prix. And if Niki takes that fireproof balaclava helmet off, we'll see the great Austrian. There he is, and Rosberg in the background, so that confirms.
Scars yet from the bad burn that Niki Lauda had, but is he happy looking or what? Let's go pit side to see if Barry Gill is down there and ready or not. I don't know.
Villanova's just taken third place.
Niki Lauda, if that cheering behind is anything to go by, this is one of the most popular victories ever seen at Long Beach. How do you feel?
I feel all right. The car was going very well. The circuit was very difficult because it broke up all over the place, so I don't think it was very nice. But I liked it.
A lot of drivers are complaining about the track, but it reminds me of when they complained about Belgium and Jackie Stewart said the good driver stays on the good bits. Is that what you were doing?
No, sure, I try to stay on the good bit, but I think it's a bit of a joke. If they change the circuit, they can't put the concrete on or asphalt on which lasts. And I think it's sure as shit, but you know, that's what it is.
Niki, 1978 in Italy, when you last won a Grand Prix with the Brabham, what's it like to win again?
I tell you, it's pretty good because I didn't expect it to come that quick, so I'm happy tonight.
And did you think you'd win a race after 3 races after that long retirement?
After practice here, I thought that I might.
Niki, congratulations and thanks for a great race.
Thank you.
Obviously, a tremendous drive by the one who they nicknamed Super Rat. I don't know why, but there's your finishing order. Niki Lauda, Keke Rosberg, Gilles Villeneuve, Ricardo Patrese, Michele Alboreto, and Elio De Angelis, the top 6 in earning those World Championship points. It has been a drive. It's been a beautiful day of racing here in Long Beach. This is Bruce Flanders on behalf of Pete Lyons and Barry Gill saying thanks for watching. We sure hope you enjoyed it. And here come the names of the people that helped make it all possible.
The 1982 is brought to you by Toyota, who invite you to visit your local Toyota dealer and see what makes the all-new 1982 Celica Supra the right stuff. Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, brewers of Michelob. Put a little weekend in your week. Canon, so advanced, Canon is the world's leader in 35mm photography. And Bridgestone, the official tire of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Bridgestone, makers of Superfiller high-performance steel-belted radios.
Den Weltmeisterschaftsstand habe ich Ihnen schon ausgerechnet. Rosberg 14, Prost 13, Lauda 12 Punkte, Piquet, der Sieger von Brasilien 9, Reutemann 6 Punkte, fährt aber nicht mehr, und dann Watson, Arnoux, Villeneuve, Patrese und Alboreto, der heute auch schon zum 2. Mal gepunktet hat. Rosberg 14, Prost 13, Lauda 12 Punkte, die ersten 3 von heute, Niki Lauda, Keke Rosberg und mit dem Rücken zur Kamera jetzt der Kanadier Gilles Villeneuve. Ich kann leider nicht verstehen, was diese Fahrer sich im Augenblick zu sagen haben. Villeneuve hat sicher das Maximum in diesem Rennen erreicht. Für Keke Rosberg war Niki Lauda einfach ein übermächtiger Gegner, und er hat sich vom 8. Startplatz erst nach vorne kämpfen müssen, hat sehr viele Autos überholen müssen und hatte, als er halbwegs in die Situation kam, den führenden Lauda anzugreifen, natürlich schon weit mehr als eine halbe Minute verloren gehabt. Niki Lauda hat das Rennen im Geist analysiert, vorher schon so, wie es sich entwickeln könnte, und genauso ist es dann, oder fast genauso ist es dann gekommen. Ich glaube, er hat De Cesaris sicherlich nicht zugetraut, die volle Grand Prix-Distanz durchzustehen. Lauda, Rosberg, Villeneuve, die ersten 3 in Long Beach, 7. Grand Prix an der kalifornischen Pazifikküste und der 7. Sieger. Ehrenrunde noch einmal und grenzenlose Begeisterung im Publikum für Niki Lauda, den internationalen Star Nummer 1 des Motorsports. Sie erinnern sich, 1977 ist er schon zum Weltsportler Nummer 1 gewählt worden und jetzt dieses Comeback, das Millionen Sportfreunde, nicht nur die reinen Formel 1 Enthusiasten in der ganzen Welt begeistert hat. Ich höre aus Wien, dass wir kein Bild mehr bekommen.
さあそしてこのレースの結果を見ていきますが、ニキ・ラウダが復活の優勝、2位にロズベルク、そして河合さん、3位のジル・ビルヌーブが実は失格と。
はい、スタガードウィングがですね、ティレルの方から抗議が出まして、で、結局ウィングのマウント方式がですね、ルールに違反しているということでビルヌーブ失格となりました。はい、
ブラジルのその仕返しというような意味合いもあるんでしょうか。
はい、
ビルヌーブは失格です。さあそしてチャンピオンシップですが、ニキ・ラウダが12ポイントで2位に上がってきました。河合さん、このレースお見事でしたが、どうですか、ニキ・ラウダの印象。
昔のね75年チャンピオンを取った時のニキ・ラウダの速さはないけれども、非常にクレバーな頭のいい走りをするニキ・ラウダ、これがもう1回復活したなという感じで、これはこの後ですね、彼のチームメートになるプロスに継承されていくというわけですね。
いや、表彰台にはまだこれビルヌーブ乗ったままですが、さあそしてロズベルクもこのレースは速さ目立ちましたよね。
そうですね、この年チャンピオンに彼は結局なるわけですけれども、それに値する走りを見せてくれました。
表彰台の中央には2年ぶりに戻ってきたニキ・ラウダ、非常に印象的なグランプリになりました。 F1 レジェンズ82年の第3戦優勝はニキ・ラウダでした。河合さん、ありがとうございました。
はい。